Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I ain't your son. I ain't your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I ain't your son. I ain't your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook live stream. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Hey. Anyway, everything that we do here is supported by the sales of that game, Neofeud. That is a adventure game on Steam and itch.io. That is a a story of my personal experiences as a native Hawaiian here in the illegally occupied sovereign country of Hawaii by the white supremacist capitalist, thankfully collapsing hell country of the United States, by admittance of their own multiple presidents and their own state bar examination. To become a lawyer, you have to understand that the United States state of Hawaii doesn't exist, which is ironic, paradoxical, sad, and also kind of terrifying if you think that that's the kind of people that run that country. Anyways, and Neofeud is about my experiences as a social worker, STEM teacher, as well as a person just growing up in the ghettos of Hawaii on the not so nice side of the coconut trees, and socio-political economic inequality, and being in a very beautiful place, but with one of the greatest inequality in the world in terms of economic differentials, with one of the highest concentration of billionaires on the planet, with people with golden mansions living like right above, like half a mile above, just people that are living in abject poverty, $6,000 income per person for the Marshallese community. For Native Hawaiians, we're 4 times more likely to be homeless, etc., etc. And so a lot of Neofeud is an exploration of that in a video game format. And so I know some people that are watching this probably came here from the Luna stream. I was very happy to be involved in the to be on the Luna Oi channel in the most recent video. Let me see if I can get that up here. Luna Oi Luna Oi is the channel, and Luna is a Vietnamese content creator and very important educator and voice. And so I was on there yesterday, or technically today, depending on where you are. Let's see if it's over here. Yeah. So anyways, yeah. So you can watch this video if you want. I go more specifically.
Welcome to Kami.
I go really specifically into the history of Hawaii, the present of Hawaii, and specifically the question was about. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of waiting for this ad to go by. The question was about genocide specifically, and how genocide in Hawaii has occurred, cultural genocide and other forms of it have occurred here in Hawaii, historically and in the present. And of course, if you know the Silver Spook streams, I talk in a wide-ranging, I call it decompartmentalized education. That I don't view child rearing, education, food preparation, food consumption. In Native Hawaiians, we don't view all these things: spirituality, religion and science, politics, sociology. These things are not separate concepts. It's part of why everything's broken in the Western world, and they're killing themselves. I was just talking about the concepts of child rearing, and then the Westerners are in denial. It's like, well, I mean, no, I was just talking about this. That your abusive childhood. I know this is not exactly where I was thinking of going, but I was just having an interaction here. It was like somebody was saying, like, I used to think that adults just didn't understand kids. That's not true. Adults generally do not respect kids, not at all. Not their intelligence, not their space, not their concerns. Definitely not the fact that they're whole ass people. They just rather lord their power. And that tweet had like 100,000 plus shares and likes, and that's not even from a white individual. That's just somebody in an English-speaking country, right? The West. And the fact that people think that adults, it's kind of like, like we talk about the kind of the universalization of Western barbarism. I call it Western imperialism. Just Western, just horrific, just evil societies. It's just disgusting, despicable, preposterous is Richard Medhurst's favorite word. Whatever you want to call it: feudalism, capitalism, neo-feudal post-capitalism, or techno-feudal post-capitalism, as Yanis Varoufakis would call it. Whatever these are not like the viewing these as compartmentalized, distinct categories. right? Slavery over here, capitalism over here, feudalism over there, and they're totally different, nothing to do with each other, is part of the Jedi mind trick, or I should say the Emperor Palpatine mind trick from the Emperor Palpatine training facility at Harvard that installs its leaders in the C-something-A organization that, please don't nuke my stream off of this Death Star's satellites just yet. That's why I did that. But anyways, this idea of compartmental, of we have discrete different systems, and then you do politics, you vote over here, you do your politics in this voting booth, right? And then you go to your workplace. You know, like Richard Wolff brings this up, right? He's one of the few people that has any kind of clue in the West. It's like one economist out of thousands upon thousands upon thousands that are working for Reuters, Human Rights Watch, the New York Times, Goldman Sachs, and on the advisory boards for the Treasury, or literally at the Treasury. Richard Wolff, he brings this up, that which is like, you vote in this voting booth, right? But then even your votes, 99.5% of all legislation and policy is determined by whichever gets the most money from the plutocracy, right? B, when you go in the voting booth and you go, we have a free democracy where we're all equal, and I voted for my representative, my president, blah blah blah. And then you go into your workplace where it's a literal dictatorship, right? The boss tells you what to do, what to produce, how to produce, where to produce it, what to do with the profit. Give it all to the boss, right? You don't have a vote in your workplace, do you? Right? But that compartmentalization, well, but that's fine because it's not fine. Oh, children just have to be abused, right? Adults just don't understand kids. Adults just don't respect kids. Adults just don't respect kids, not at all. Not their intelligence, not their space, not their concerns. Definitely not the fact that they're whole-ass people. They just rather lord their power. And that's just how adults are. This is a universalization of Western broke-ass culture problems. Just actually a minority of people on the planet. One out of every 8 people. 1 out of every 20 is an American, and 1 out of every 8 is a Western European or settler colonial descendant of their disgusting empires. Majority of people did not treat children as objects. The Native Hawaiians definitely didn't. In Native Hawaiian culture, the keiki, the children, are treated as people worthy of respect. Beating as parenting was brought in by colonizers. Western domination culture treats kids... Actually, I'm going to go put my flag up real fast. Since I'm talking about... I put it up when I'm like specifically talking about Hawaiian stuff, so I'm going to put this back up. This is a Kanaka Maoli flag of Hawaii. In Native Hawaiian culture, the keiki children are treated as people worthy of respect. Beating as parenting was brought in by Western colonizers like the United States. Western domination culture treats kids as property, as subhuman, along with women who are the first serf of the lord of the house. Yes, I am intentionally treating the United States, a so-called democratic, Western liberal, capitalist country, as a feudal country, because that's what it is. That's why I called the game Neofeud. It's just to... Part of the reason of describing the video game Neofeud as Neofeud is to fracture your calcified, compartmentalized, and therefore idiotified brain to realize what you are suffering in the United States, in the entire Western world. It really makes me it's kind of saddening. I mean, it's dangerous for us as Native Hawaiians because you're going to destroy the world, and there is colonization that does hurt us, but it's just sad to watch you to abuse your own children, your own body, your own mind, your own labor value, right? With this ridiculous that's why I call it Neofeud, is because you live in feudalism. You have not changed anything. You haven't changed anything. And slavery, it's feudalism with skin color characteristics, right? It's not really this categorization of like, oh, we had this dark stain on our past, from sometime in the 1800s, and then it ended when Abraham Lincoln did the Emancipation Proclamation. It absolutely did not. It just formed again, right? It's the shell game again and again and again and again and again. And by keeping your brain stuck looking at the one shell, right? The one cup in the 3-card Monty, right? Oh, slavery was bad, but that's over. We're all good now. You're not even close to good. You're not even getting out. You're still in deep evil time. You're actually going to annihilate the planet with your nuclear war that your C-something A and all of your State Department and your military-industrial complex, morality-free and rationality-free clowns that run the U.S. military and political, at the highest level, political structures are about to destroy with the attempted war on a nuclear empowered country, China. So please don't commit omnicide for the entire human race. So that's why we have to really, people need to really realize what is happening, you know. This is all connected. How is child rearing connected to the collapse of the entire economy and potentially the entire species? These are directly connected. Western domination culture treats children as property, as subhuman, along with women, and you find the first serf of the lord of the house. A patriarchy exists in order to manufacture a serf for each white man that comes across the pond, the Atlantic, right? Escaping their own abusive situation and then reconstructing abuse on Turtle Island with stolen people on stolen land, right? And it's the woman comes with the land, cooks, cleans, provides sexual gratification for the lord, the man, the white man of the house specifically, but is treated as property. They did not change the system whatsoever. They just transformed the titles, the names. People started losing heads, and then they said, "Oh well, we're gonna have this representative democracy, right?" Oh my goodness, the French, the Bourbon kings, and Marie Antoinette, and the people that were sipping the champagne and having 76-layer wedding cakes and 10-foot tall, ridiculous, Frenchly ridiculous hairstyles, that took 6 hours to produce with their personal groomers. They started getting their heads chopped off in Versailles. And then they said, well, we're not going to do feudalism anymore. We're going to do this really totally different new system called Western democratic capitalism. But it totally wasn't. And they recreated that structure in America, in the United States in particular. And now it's the most disgusting planetary, the biggest evil on Earth, of course, the United States empire. And nothing continues to be changed. And so that's why, and that the heart of this really is the way your education, this is another compartmentalization of reality, is there's education over here, and then there's the way that we parent over here. No. The abuse, physical beating, mental abuse, and treating children, right? Adults not respecting children, not their intelligence. Western adults, don't throw indigenous, as I said, there's another one I want to bring up. This is like an important one as well. Do not throw indigenous people under the bus for the crimes. I'm still I said it. I'm trying to find this one. Yeah, don't throw indigenous and global South peoples. Go away. Okay, don't throw indigenous and global South people under the bus for Western capitalist crimes. Just because most people that you know personally are white or privileged assholes, it doesn't mean that humanity is evil. It's just the people in y'all's circle, and this is responsible. If you put all the blame of the climate crisis on humanity being evil, you are playing into eco-fascist ploys. This is the tactic again and again and again. A friend of mine, Comrade Kenny, which is African from so-called Canada, is a colonial, another imperial shithole. Brings an important point, which is that the universalization of the European is a major tactic in maintaining the colonial power, which is that all peoples are bad. They're all bad. And they're all just corrupt. They're all just broken people. Life is nasty and brutish and short without a very strong white daddy in the house. White domineering daddy in the workplace, your boss. Domineering daddy in your ability to be housed, your landlord. Domineering daddy in whether that's the king or that's the president or that's the empire that's defending you from evils in Iraq, right? Oh, these evil terrorists are coming to get you. These evil Chinese are coming to get you now, right? And we're going to start World War III on that, and we're all going to be dead. The evil somebody is coming to get you, and we also defend you from yourself. That's why we need another several $100 million for the police, because abusive daddy has to protect you from all evil. The king. Deliver us from evil, oh great King Daddy. Deliver us from evil, O our Father who art in heaven, O Sky Daddy, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It could, because this is the divine mandate, right? That you will have a daddy that will defend you from the nasty, brutish, short life that is the pre-Hobbesian existence. And I'm talking about Thomas Hobbes, another dead white clown that thought he had interesting thoughts, but is just another abused, sad, traumatized child in an infinite Western death cult and abuse cult. You can have therapy for your abusive partner, your wife, the father, the mother that beat you, didn't listen to you, did these things. You can have a little bit of, you can sit on a couch and talk to a shrink about that for a little bit. You can never escape the permanent cycle of abuse of capitalism, bossing, the landlord, your political system that does not respond to you, the police that enforce the power of capital and racism. You will forever be traumatized in the Western world. It's in an unending cycle. You can never really be a human being anywhere in America. Anyways, I know it's sad, but you have to admit that that's the problem before you can start to deal with it. I'm a traumatized Stormtroopers Anonymous, as a member of the United States Empire, as a member of the Canadian Empire, as part of that imperial complex of the United States. If you can't admit that, you will forever be a broken half person. Don't throw the indigenous and the other people that did this, the Vietnamese, the Native Hawaiians, the first Turtle Islanders, the native peoples of what call itself America, Canada. Most of the people of the earth, actually, 7 out of 8 people, 6-7 billion people, right, that are currently under the thumb of international Western imperial colonialism. Asia, Africa, Latin America, the Pacific, all of the what they call them Americas. These people are the majority of the planet. They are not emitting the majority of the climate change. They lived in ecological sustainability in Hawaii, the Ahupua'a system, with nature. They lived in mutual relationships of respect with each other, with their children. They didn't abuse their children. That's the starting point. That's where you teach this abusive reality, where you condition people to accept that somebody has to dominate, that somebody has to be in charge in the household, in planetary superpowerdom. This is China is like, we want to be nations of equals. We do not beggar thy neighbor. We want to push for a world where that is what exists. We don't have that, right? But the United States, the West, and its allies, its cowardly allies, UK, Australia, Canada, that are all benefiting from this imperialism, all of the EU, right? That are no, we have to have somebody. There has to be a daddy that is crushing, stomping, physically, mentally, psychologically, and culturally abusing everyone. Somebody has to be in charge, because my daddy beat me. My daddy spanked me. My daddy and mommy didn't listen to me, treated me like I was an object. And that's the way of the universe. That's the way it is when the boss treats me like a piece of tissue paper, and they fire me when they discover I'm disabled. They treat me like crap. They scream at me. They tell me what to do, how to do it, when to do it. I have no democratic power in my workplace. That's just how it is. That's just how it is, because I was conditioned to do that, because I was living in an imperial Western shithole. Anyways, don't throw the indigenous and the global South under the bus for Western capitalist and imperial crimes. Western capitalist, feudal, slavery, colonial, plantation crimes. I don't care. Patriarchal crimes. Hawaiians did not have a it was what your gender was fluid. A, B. If you were making love, if you were a man with having a romantic or sexual relations with another man, or women with women, it was not even. It was so not even a problem that there's not even really words for gay and lesbian. It's like, if you want to lay with somebody, no matter what their gender is and what your gender is, and you want to change your gender, this was not even an issue, right? They did have a word, mahu, in Hawaiian culture for the third gender, but and that is a huge part of it. You need, again, the reason why you have such strict gender binaries is not just like it's just an accident. No, you require strict gender binaries so that you can have strict hierarchies and strict, you have a guaranteed serf for every white man. It's called a wife. At least every white man that crosses the pond, they can get one serf. And it's the freedom of America is the freedom for white men to abuse women, children, murder their own children. You literally could murder your own child You know, as a man in America, I had a gay son, you could have killed him at a certain point. Women, they were treated as literal property. You had no rights, right? Only very recently, again, in the Hawaiian, sovereign Hawaiian country, women, children, Black and Asian and people of all races were treated as full citizens. In the 1840s, when America still had slavery, the Western world is comically terrible. But anyways, you know, so let me get off of this particular stream. Oh, here's an important video you should check out if you have a second. You want to learn more about Hawaii? I highly recommend this one. It's by Angry Hawaiian. It's an important discussion in the peaceful Pacific no Cold War panel that happened in the past week. And there's a lot of goes more into the specifics of the illegal occupation of the United States, the warmongering and war footing as the United States gears up for increased tensions and warfare in the Pacific. How is warfare related to parenting? I mean, again, they are intimately related. But we'll get into that. In Native Hawaiian culture, the keiki, the children, are treated as people worthy of respect. Beating as parenting was brought in by colonizers. Okay, Hawaiian, the transmission of ike, right, knowledge, the kula or school. That's another word that we're trying to use. I'm trying to get more of my language back because you know why? Because Hawaiian language was banned in Hawaii by actual genocidal empires like the United States. Actually attempting to assimilate and destroy us. But anyways, so I didn't learn any Hawaiian. I learned no history about Hawaii. I didn't learn that the Hawaiians' culture was actually far more advanced than anything the Western world had ever discovered. Like better education, the highest literacy rate in the world, more advanced technologically, economically, and sociopolitically than the West. As I've elucidated that many times, but the Western world still doesn't realize that. And somebody was just interacting. I was just like, but it was so much. It's so much better under America. Again, this is the same argument, but it's some Western white broken stormtrooper, brain poisoned individual. So I don't really blame them for being a complete idiot. Your abused childhood in the West is trauma that conditions you for an abusive, hierarchical, capitalist world that you cannot escape. Even if you change your boss, your landlord, your politician. Hey, how's Biden going for you? Are you feeling a lot better off now? Is that a lot better? How is it when you went from Obama to Trump? Did things get better, even for the white people? Not really, did it? It didn't. Have you noticed the quality? It seems to never go up. You know, for the last, forever, as far as I'm concerned. You cannot change. Are you having a bad time at the McDonald's? Are you feeling better at the Walmart now? Oh, you left the Walmart. Do you feel like your capitalist boss, at the Chevron, are they treating you better? Is the university system that are hedge funds with fake educational characteristics, is your university administrators treating you really well? Making $7.50 per hour as a underpaid adjunct permanent professor, food insecure. 50% of college professors are food insecure. Do you feel much better off? Changing, you can never not be abused in the West. Is your new landlord, right? For all of those who have been evicted, I'm so terribly sorry that you live in a society that abuses you by denying your right to have a secure, safe, dignified house. I'm so sorry that you live in America or Canada or Australia or anywhere in the West. Very terrible. I'm so sorry. In Hawaii, we don't do that to each other. There's been 0 evictions for the last 5 years here on the Big Island of Hawaii, and there's basically nobody that's homeless by their own choice. Because that's how human beings do things, actually. Not this homelessness thing, this ridiculous homelessness thing that you do to your fellow human beings in the West is disgusting. That is the perversion of the human species. That is the warping and the distortion of humanity. The fact that you have homeless people is sad. I worked specifically with them as a social worker for a decade, and I watched you, I felt what being homeless was like, and until I didn't realize that that's not the normal state of things, right? For every homeless person that you see on the street, imagine 20 or 30 other ones that are already dead, Because you know why? Because when you become homeless, your life expectancy plummets by 30 years. 47 years for a homeless man in America, 42 for a homeless woman. If you're a black trans woman, your life expectancy is like in the low 20s. You're basically dead. That is a human rights. That is a crime against humanity. And every politician, economist, business, landlord would hang if there was justice in the Western world. There isn't, and there can never be. Because it's founded on barbarism, from Rome to the feudal era, to the slave era, to the capitalist era, and to the neo-feudal post-capitalist non-fungible token trading, high frequency, speed of light fraud that is Wall Street. To each of these eras, there's never been any justice ever. There's only the stomping forward. It's only, as I often say, it's like the bulldozing forward over all the dead skulls and then paving a hotel over the dead bodies. I mean, literally the black and the indigenous that you stole the land from. But, and for the settler colonial, it's more like America is just a hyper acceleration of the European barbarism. It's like, because everybody who left was just like thirsty to become king, That's why Disney movies are all about princesses and princes and kings and queens and Snow White and the dwarves and Tangled. It's not because it's an obsession with the American to become King George. To have not just one wife serf and then 3 children serfs, is to have thousands and thousands and millions of serfs and slaves and peasants and workers. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that's supposed to be different? No, you're all peasants. And that's the dream of the American, is to become King George. They look at the British feudal dynastic blood dynasties and they with envy, and they have to say that they're everyman. That's why I love Elon Musk saying, "I'm the techno king." I'm not joking about that. I brought this up several times, but you can look it up for yourself. Elon Musk has declared himself techno king of Tesla, the master of, he calls the master of coin, who once was the chief financial officer. No, I'm sorry. He actually maintains the chief executive officer and the techno king title. So it's literally neo-feudalism. It's literal neo-feud. So I told you so. And Elon Musk confirms what I'm saying, which is that it is an obsession with total absolute power, not just power accumulated through capital accumulation of dead white war criminals. I'm sorry, presidents like Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill, Benjamin, George Washington, who had his slave's teeth in his mouth. It's the accumulation of these dead war criminals, I'm sorry, dollars, that brings the power under capitalism. But they don't want just the dollar power. They want total absolute power, like King said. Which again goes to show you, that's the Western mentality. That's the domination, extractivist mentality. That's the non-mutual. That's the hierarchical mentality. These are not distinct, compartmentalized, separate things. These are just a continuation along a spectrum of killing, death, slavery, and genocide. And back to the child rearing. To when you are abused in the West, right? This person, this is not even a white person saying this, right? And I'm not trying to dunk on anybody. I'm just using this as an example that this is so common in the United States, in the colonized world, even in Hawaii, in occupied Hawaii, not under Native Hawaiian culture. That people think that this is a universal problem when it is not. It is a European and its descendant, imperial, hierarchical, barbaric culture problem. It's a American and it's a UK problem. It's definitely a Quiverful and a neocon problem. It's definitely Adrian Zenza's problem, the literal neo-Nazi that America loves to cite, and all of its allies love to cite to try to start World War III, to push China back into the box. It's definitely his problem. Adrian Zenz, if you listen to these streams, you know who that is. I hope you know who the fucking that is by now. Who got his degree from apparently a Cracker Jack box, according to the actual academic world, that says he's not valid as an academic. But then they refuse to stop sharing the articles and refuse to speak out on all of his evidence-free, falsified claims of Uyghur genocide that the U.S. is using as a pretext for the most horrendous Cold War, if not warm war, if not hot war, that will end humanity, if not kill, disenfranchise, and impoverish the planet ultimately, probably, but at least millions. Anyways, and again, I don't love it. I hate this clown, but he ties it together very well because, you know, he says women and homosexuals should not be treated as equals. Exactly what I'm saying, right? Heteropatriarchy. He says that Jews will be melted down in a fiery furnace. Those Jews who do not convert, Adrian Zenz, the number one. I just saw him cited by Bloomberg yesterday in an article. So this is not stopped. This is only accelerating. The anti-China, anti-Asian propaganda only accelerating. Anti-Asian hate crimes exponentially growing. 4,000 in the last year and growing faster and faster. This is not going to slow down. The United States will burn the world. The Western will burn the world rather than see a non-Caucasian leader and also a non-colonial, non-domineering, non-capitalist, feudalist, slavery, and colonial-based society, which is what, that's what, it's not a guarantee, but the country that will surpass the United States, has surpassed the United States in terms of its economy, is at least attempting to push in that direction. And that alone is cause for the United States, and they will burn this planet to a crisp. That's why I'm saying the most important thing for people to be speaking out about is to stop the to speak out against this war, the Cold War, the racism, racism is the language of war, and we have to stop this because if we don't, we're not gonna have anything to talk about because we're all gonna be irradiated, dead nuclear shadows on the side of a Starbucks or in a homeless tent city's concrete wall outside of a Chase Bank. You're gonna be a nuclear shadow. You know why? Because nukes will have destroyed and turned into volcanic glass all of San Francisco, all of New York City, and everything else in the world. And I hope that is not what happens. But there is no rationality and there's no morality at the highest levels of the U.S. empire. Many of the neocon edge of the spectrum, they want the world to burn rather than see an Asian leader of the world. They will burn the world. Some of them have literally come out and said this. The head of the Navy has literally said, nuclear war is very likely with Russia and China. We should just prepare for nuclear war. This is what's coming out of the highest levels of the U.S. military and intelligence complex. So this is why, again, this is so critical. And I know I'm going off again on a side. This is kind of tangential, but to me, like, I'm not doing these streams for people to make money. I don't need 70,000 subscribers or 2 million or whatever. I don't want to start a Disney unboxing Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier and billionaire philanthropist arms dealer Playboy Funko Pops. I don't need to open up Baby Yoda t-shirts for a living. I'm not doing that. I'm doing this because I want people. Because I have aloha. Because I care about you. And also, of course, my people, my family, our community, and all people. That's what aloha actually means. It's not hello, welcome to Hawaii, have a lei, have fun having mai tais while we work starvation wage jobs in Waikiki. Aloha means it's a big, deep, wide ocean of love for all people, all things, and the ecology and the aina, the earth that is our mother. And that's why I'm doing these streams. That's what it means to live as a native Hawaiian, right? And not as an abuser and a social capitalist, clout chaser in a lot of the social media world, right? And doing things that are gonna actually harm a lot of people and saying things that are gonna harm a lot of people. But I can make more money saying this thing and doing the alphabet soup agency that runs the U.S. empire's job for them, disinforming people while pretending to say a true thing. Anyways, that's a slight dig. I don't want to start drama, but I do want to say, like, if you are a content creator on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, anywhere where you're producing this content, consider. I understand that you have to pay a lot. You have to pay $3,000 for your, $6,000 for your back rent. You're gonna need $600, $450 for your insulin. I understand you have to make some money for your Twitch channel to get your subs, so you can show for Coca-Cola or whatever you gotta do to make the money to survive in your permanent abusive trauma situation, being a person in a Western country. I understand that, but consider that we will not have a world to live in if this continues. If that system is not, if that cycle of trauma, the 2,000-year cycle of trauma of Europe really isn't truncated, we have to speak as much. I mean, under the circumstances that we're in, right? Speak the truth. I know a lot of people are afraid to lose their professorship. They're afraid to be called out as genocide deniers. They're afraid to go against their empire's push. They want the $500 million the United States has just released to counter the Belt and Road Initiative and anything to do with China, and they want that money. I'm looking at independent channels on this here. I'm looking at new blue check marks popping up going, I'm an independent media, definitely not taking a C something A money. I'm definitely not taking American Imperial money. I'm very independent journalist talking about how the Belt and Road Initiative is going to destroy Africa and Asia. And I'm like, this is very, but I understand you're a millennial sitting around, eating ramen for dinner, trying not to be murdered by the poison lead, copper, and frack water filled water, sitting around in Cincinnati or in New York or in a rural or urban area anywhere in the Western world, and you're going, hey, see something A, hey, see something A, hey, State Department, I like a big bag of money. I'll pretend to be an independent journalist astroturfing the World War III for you. But we have to resist the bag of clout, the bag of money, perpetuating your Western Empire's destruction of the entire planet, okay? Because you're not going to have a planet to play, Call of Colonialism on and make your subs today if this war continues. And the Hawaiians will definitely not be here. You know why? Because this is where they're going to shoot the missile first. So, of course, I do have this is the other half of the U.S. military-industrial complex. It's right now. Actually, this is the headquarters. Not really D.C. right now. It's less than 500 miles from where I am right now. I can't say any more about the GPS location than that. But let's put it this way: this is the head of the Indo-Pacific Command. This place, Hawaii, is key to the as described in that Angry Hawaiian video that I just shared. Hawaii has been the point for getting a handle in and getting the fair share of Asia. That's literally what the Roosevelts, who built most of the East Coast money, built their fortunes off of colonizing China. And Hawaii was the jumping off point. It was a geopolitical strategic launching point to basically bloodlet, steal, enslave Chinese, and steal as much wealth and as labor value, and sell opium into their people. Hawaii was the jumping off point to get into and colonize and make wealth and billions from China. The Roosevelts, much of the old money on that side. Standard & Poor's, Poor, that guy. So this money, and so Hawaii now is what? What is the number one enemy of the United States? This is our biggest enemy. And they're saying 11 out of 10 Americans agree China is the biggest enemy. We have to destroy China. Your biggest enemy is your own police forces that are going to murder you for striking, for being black, for being brown, for resisting your empire. They're the number one abusers in chief. They're the professional. The police are the daddy of the adult working world, right? Right? In your household, your father, you can beat the shit out of you. And that's a normal thing to do in America, right? Adrian Zenz, no, you have the biblical spanking of children is required to produce a prosperous Germany. And also, I want to melt all the Jews down in a fire. It's weird how literal German newspapers are citing a fucking neo-Nazi who wants to melt the Jews down, and Jewish 8-year PhD academics that are also leftists have actually cited to me a literal neo-Nazi who wants to melt them down as a reason for why we have to start wars with China because of a alleged genocide in Xinjiang. It's like these people, this guy wants to genocide you, and you anyway. But that's the level of brain rot in the entire Western world. And Luna, and I have I've talked about this at great length yesterday. I know I talk about this a lot, but anyway, but what is a child rearing? No, this is exactly. What does child rearing have to do with starting World War III? No. That's exactly what it is. When you are, if people accept this, that I used to think that adults don't understand kids, but no, adults don't respect kids. No, it's when you're about to say, all humans are bad, Ahab, right? Remember, say, AWAB, okay? All Westerners, not bad, actually. They're not bad. All Westerners are, AWAB, right? All Westerners are abused. It's not all humans are bad. Not humanity is evil. Human life is nasty, brutish, and short. All this other nonsense. People are just corrupt, and they just all become corrupt, and it's all the same. The Hawaiians are the same as The Americans, no, we lived 8,200 years before you even showed up, and then we lived even longer under our technologically advanced, economically advanced Hawaiian Republic, where we had the highest literacy rate in the world, far surpassing the United States. Hawaii had electric. I'm going to take this off the screen. Hawaii had electricity in the capital of Iolani Palace when the White House was still dark. The president was shitting in an outhouse when we had indoor plumbing. We had a prosperous society. We had universal health care. We had universal suffrage. We had citizens that were black and Asian. America is still trying to figure out how to stop genociding its ethnic minorities, you murderers of George Floyd, Dante, the kids in Chicago. 2 actually in the illegal occupation of Hawaii in the last 2 weeks. Disgusting. HPD is a colonial force to murder people of color, even here under the illegal occupation of Hawaii. Hawaii had already had equal citizenship, equal rights in the 1800s when America still had slavery. So Hawaii quality of life was far more advanced technologically, economically, sociopolitically. Hawaii was an advanced actual socialist country. And but Westerners still think that, well, it's just a bunch of savages and America saved. No, America de-developed Hawaii. America ghettoized us. America, so anyways, I know I say that often, so you don't need to hear all of that. But, so this concept, though, of abusing children being normal, again, all children, that's like saying ACAB, all children are, or ACAB, all children are abused. No. ACAB, all Western children are abused. ABAB, all bosses are bad. No, all Western capitalist bosses are bad. We didn't have bosses in Hawaii. We had hui. So cooperative is what we are, right? It's what a luau is, right? Is, again, I went in a long elucidation of what it is, right, yesterday. So I'm going to go over the whole thing. Is basically the people were fed by people were fed, people were housed, people were clothed, people were provided the basic services of life from their ability to need, right? Under Marxian analysis, right? People should be provide from each according to their ability to each according to their needs. That's what a luau is. Whether you brought 10,000 fish or you brought 10 fish, there was no auction house, there was no market, there was no capital, there was no feudal lord hoarding, and then everybody has to give 1/3 so that the lord can accumulate wealth, power, crowns, titles, tranches of land, knights, additional serfs and additional power, and then send off everybody at the age of 20 to go die for the feudal daddy. It's not the calling the Hawaiians the king. There's no word in English that means what an ali'i is. The ali'i of Kona, the ali'i of Oahu, the ali'i of not Oahu, but the ali'i of Kea'au, right? The ali'i of this area of Hawaiian Aupua'a. These are Hawaiian words. There's no meaning in English. The closest you can get is steward, because the ali'i was not allowed, and it was just not a thing that was done. Right? If 1 out of 99 ali'i, the stewards, right, who coordinated the produce of banana, kalo, fish, pork, etc., in the luau is living, a decompartmentalized food preparation, education, politics, entertainment, history, in a massive 1,000 person plus feast that was all cooked in an earth oven. Again, you bring all the fish, all the poi, all of the produce. It didn't matter if you brought 100 or 1,000. You all put it in. When the food was cooked overnight with superheated lava rocks in a deep earth oven dug into the ground, the size of an Olympic swimming pool, often could be huge. It's really dependent on how many people were being fed in this ahupua'a, in the hui, in the community, not produced by a capitalist business, not produced by a lord on his land for him, and then he decides who gets what, right? This is how, and if you don't give the Lord what he wants, then he sends a bunch of people with swords to chop your face off. That's unthinkable. This is why Hawaiians live 80 to 100 years when the Europeans at best were living to 30, 40, 50, and they were all dying. They were dying nasty, brutish, short lives with or without Leviathan. Especially the serfs. So the ali'i were stewards, okay, and so this this concept that they incorporated human technology, right, to the point of having one of our elite, Kalakaua, right? It was King Kalakaua to everyone else, but they were all elected, and they were actually hung. They actually punished criminals, kind of what China did to 15 billionaires. But anyway, it's a whole nother. That's not a whole nother story. It's actually a similar story. I found out yesterday that the word hui, or approximately equates to worker-owned cooperative. Richard Wolff, what to produce, how to produce, where to produce, what to do with the profits being decided democratically by the workers in a restaurant, in a factory, in a store, in a electric vehicle plant, in a software firm, in a game company, in an indie game or bigger game company. The workers collectively deciding what to produce, how to produce, where to produce, what to do with profits. That's what a hui actually is. It was pre-existing actual socialism. Under some of the most advanced theories of 21st century Western world, which is not very advanced. The West is a barbaric. They're the ones that are all back in the savagery. Still back in the savagery. Still blowing up Iraqi children with Tomahawk missiles to make Lockheed Martin yacht payments. Pretty savage. Pretty savage. JP Morgan. Pretty savage. Killing all of your Texans with exploding water pipes and charging them $16,751. Yes, JP Morgan, massive New York banks, and their private equity spawn have huge investments buying up the entire electrical grid of the United States, including PG&E, including virtually every state's electrical grid. Get ready for the rest of your death when the Day After Tomorrow prequel tomorrow happens in your state. Coming to a state near you, the Song of Texas Ice and California Wildfire. Get ready to burn this summer. I saw 6 different ads from like cattle companies, orange growing farms. Please, let's control burn. No, because you know why? Because we know that America is gonna fucking burn itself, literally, with exploding cops, gender reveal parties, setting the rest of California on fire, burning all of George Lucas's Ewok sets in Marin County, all the redwoods. They used to have redwoods. Now they're just gonna be ashes and dead black slaves, because America still has slavery. That's who's gonna be putting out the fires. Black kids arrested, standing around looking like George Floyd in front of a 7-Eleven in Oakland. This is all part, and I'm speaking about this in this way because I'm trying to fracture your calcified, brain poisoned, Western brain. It's they call it liberal brain rot, but it's actually liberal left and right brain rot. Everything, it's all brain rot. It's not really brain rot. It's installed disinformation in your mind and categorization in these ways that precludes you from the possibility of changing your Western world. So why America has never had anything. The people that are trying to actually fix something in the United States, they're the black and brown, the Black Lives Matter. These people that are like, they're over this entire project. The people that still strongly identify and function as Westerners, we'll just vote this out. No, there's no possibility. It's all they want you to believe that, but there's no possibility. You have to exit like I said, if you want good information, you want actual education, you have to exit the entire Western Imperial world. You have to, and it's not easy because most of that is not English speaking, and it's not going to be easy for you to find. Every avenue that you have, this platform itself, every surveillance capitalist company, the tech companies, the media companies, everywhere that you could search for information is itself part of the matrix. You have to really try very hard. And then when you find it, it's probably going to be labeled as Chinese state-affiliated media when you find actual information in the world. That's how you know. Is the West trying to destroy that information and label it as Death Star state-affiliated media? That's what the Death Star does. It labels the other places that are actually giving you some true information as horrific, imperial, authoritarian regime, drug trafficker, state-affiliated media. Right? That's how you know you're getting close to information in the West. Is because they're gonna label it as, it's like putting a caution, like in a WandaVision, road ends here, do not drive past this point, right? Caution, cliffside, caution, bridge collapse. Well, in America, every bridge is collapsed because the infrastructure is broken and it'll never be fixed again because neo-feudal capitalism will devour the entire nation. Bridges, roads, electrical infrastructure, Boeing company, and all your car companies that can't make any fucking cars. You're minus 1 million cars in the hole right now. That's why I'm like, where the hell can I get a Toyota Corolla that doesn't cost $6,000? But even the used cars. you're driving towards the end of a bridge and it's going, no, you can't go here because it's Chinese state affiliate media, Russian state affiliate media, Venezuelan or Vietnamese state affiliate media, Luna Oil. I'm just like waiting for Luna Oil. I shouldn't give them ideas. I'm waiting for one of my comrades to just be like, state CCP propaganda, communism propaganda, and that's how you might be getting close to something. I'm not to say that it's guaranteed it's going to be good, but everything that comes out of the Western corporate, Human Rights Watch, Democracy Now, Reuters, New York Times, left, right, and center media in the West, most of the fucking AstroTurf, a BreadTube, a lot. I shouldn't throw all of them under the bus, but a lot of FedTube. Let's put it that way. Twitter, Instagram, sheepdog herding politicians like AOC. A lot of even the medium and smaller streamers, unfortunately, even on Twitch, just herding everybody back into the empire. No, I'm sorry, no, you're this dangerous CCP propaganda past this point. But that's the Truman Show wall that you're hitting into, right? That's the matrix of the entire. Every tech company, social media platform, every media platform is going to try to shove you back out of it. But they're putting billions of dollars right now. The $500 million yesterday, or like a couple days ago, the Senate just passed that bill that pushed $500 million into. They know that kids aren't listening to CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. That's all that's boomer imperial propaganda. That's the boomer matrix. Your matrix is literally people that you think are authentic, independent, definitely not funded by any intelligence agency in the West. YouTuber. I'm an independent journalist. That's where the money's going. It's going to independent journalists in YouTube. So I know that makes it very difficult. I watched a Richard Medhurst video. I see somebody that's like, same like fonts, same like video presentation as a Richard. There's like a handful of people that are actually saying a true thing. You can tell because they get swatted and they get attempts to all their finances get chopped off. They get like Max Blumenthal. There's a handful of actual journalists, and everyone else is like AstroTurf independent journalism. So I know that's why I don't even blame people that are like saying idiotic stuff to me, like Hawaiians are so much better under America. Like America is just fighting for freedom and democracy on the road. Things like America is like exactly the same as China, and they're just as imperialist. And there's zero problems coming out of there, but that's not what's happening. They're not the ones trying to start the war to end all wars and trying to stop poverty alleviation, 850 million people from happening. America has actually literally admitted, I think, I gotta go get the receipts for this, but they literally said, we would rather push the Chinese back into poverty. All the, a billion people, we'd rather shove them back into poverty than have anybody even close to competing with us. No, that's not what it is. You know what it is? We just care about Uyghurs so much. America cares so much about Muslims, right? The ones that are being murdered, because they were thought to be Muslims in the FedEx, right? We care so much about Muslims. That's why we bombed millions of them to death and displaced 37 million in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, North Africa, right? We care so much about, no, absolutely not. It's about maintaining the multi-thousand-year imperial hellscape. It was the Roman hellscape, then it was the medieval hellscape, then it was a steampunk with Victorian goth characteristics hellscape in the 1800s, and then it was the capitalist hellscape of the 20th century, and then it was for women, it was a Stepford wife hellscape. For black people, it was the help. This isn't sock them utopia for black people in the 50s. I'm sorry. We're still fucking getting abused. We're still all the help. It was a black 60s rape punk dystopia, and then it was a cyberpunk dystopia in the 80s, and now it's a real full-on cyberpunk dystopian hellscape. But it's always been a hellscape, It's a hellscape with Centurion characteristics in the Roman era. It's a hellscape with Game of Thrones characteristics in the feudal era. It's a hellscape with not as many blimps and cogwork as modern steampunk fashionistas would like you to think in the 1800s. And now it's a cyberpunk dystopia, but it's always been a hellscape. The lie is that we're gonna get to the middle-class white men fear the dystopia of, oh my goodness, there's sex workers in Cyberpunk 2077. Oh my goodness, there's drug use. Oh, tattooed people. Even in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they're weaponizing Asia as a dystopian future, right? That's what it is. But it's for white men, it's literally in Cyberpunk and Blade Runner, right? Asians in America, and I have to eat noodles. You're already eating noodles with your slave Chinese in Chinatown. What are you talking about? Oh my God, there's a geisha on the side of my American building. Oh, a yellow peril. Asia might overtake us. Japan might overtake us. Japan was the first one to get, well, not the first one, but one of them to get smacked back down, like what they're trying to do to China, right? They're gonna try to, but China is much more powerful than Japan ever was, and but that's what cyberpunk is really about. A lot of it is about Western imperial military, industrial, and political and economic elite sphere that they will be overtaken. And the dystopia is that white men won't be on the top. White rich men won't be on the top of this planet anymore, and that there might be some just different alien civilizations invading their space, and that's why we have to go destroy them all, kill them all, sanction them all, steal their corporate executives of Sony, of Mitsubishi, of Toshiba in the 80s, go and kidnap the Huawei CEO. Even in Europe, even their own allies, they kidnap French executives as well. When some of the EU, these guys are trying to challenge us in telecom, in big tech, we're gonna just kidnap their executives. So they even do this to some of their own Western allies. They actually threatened when Germany and the International Criminal Court attempted to just investigate, just considered investigating Germany and the EU, other countries were like, maybe we'll investigate war crimes in Afghanistan. Of course there's war crime. Are you kidding me? What America's done for decades and decades and decades is a war crime, and it's like war crimes upon war crimes. It's a war crimeception. It's a 7-layer of hell burrito of war crimes in Afghanistan. Are you fucking kidding me? When they just attempted to investigate war crimes, the United States, Mike Pompeo, sanctioned Merkel, the heads of state, and any politician, any ombudsman, anyone, and their families. So they attacked them and their families personally. Anyone who attempted to investigate the war crimes of the United States. This is why there can never be justice in the West. There will never be any hanging in The Hague again. There will never any punishment for any actual of the biggest crimes in the world. There can never be justice in this world, because you can never hang anyone, a war criminal in The Hague, because the United States does the hanging, and the United States is the war criminal and war criminal manufacture machine in chief. There will never be any justice. This is why Hawaiians, we can, the only thing we can do is build enough massive international solidarity to stop the U.S. military from its illegal occupation, because we know the United States doesn't respect rule of law. It's all rules-based order. I believe, whatever you think about Russia, Putin was correct when he said that playing chess with America is like playing chess with a pigeon. They say they're gonna do one thing, the next thing they flip the whole board over, they take it pieces, they're throwing them all over the place. They don't respect rules at all. They're on our mountain as we speak, bombing our sacred mountain, poisoning illegally, toxifying our water supply, radiating our mountain, desecrating it, and also threatening my children personally and my family personally. Less than 30 miles from us. It sounds like firecracker. Sounds like thunder going off like 10 times in a row at night. That's how you can tell it's not thunder and it's not a volcanic eruption. We have a volcano here, shield volcano, that sometimes has explosive, as water heats up, superheated steam kind of suddenly bursts through the obsidian and the Pahoehoe and lava rock. Sometimes you have like one explosion. It says earthquakes as well. But it's a little shaking. Thunder. It's usually rain. But when it sounds like 20 thunder strikes in a row, and the earth shakes simultaneously, that's the United States military preparing to bomb Chinese aircraft carriers with hypersonic missiles. That's the American military here, right where I'm streaming from, preparing to drop more bombs on Uyghurs, which is what America does actual genocide against Uyghurs. Like the ETIM declassification as an extremist organization, when America was just in 2018 dropping more bombs on them on the Chinese Uyghur population that they claim to care about. The U.S. military was dropping bombs on them and killing them. The extremists that they manufactured, very similar to Al Qaeda, they manufacture Osama bin Laden and they go kill him. It's the same thing. Because it's never been about human rights. They don't give one fuck about a Uyghur, a Muslim of any nationality. They don't give a shit about Xinjiang. They don't care about forced labor. They don't care about any of that. Just like they didn't care about the babies that were thrown out of the incubators in the Gulf War, in the run up to the Gulf War, the lie that they came in, paraded a young woman around with mysteriously no last name, who happened to be related to somebody who was working with the United States to lie everyone into the Gulf War, the Americans in the Western into the Gulf War, to shake a little bit of WMD. Oh, Colin Powell we have a very intelligent intelligence community that provided me with this vial of turmeric, yellow cake, uranium, or was it laundry detergent? I can't remember. Am I gonna put this in my curry that I'm gonna eat with all the dead actual children that I eat because I can never be accused of any crime because I'm a war criminal in the United States and we do the hanging and we can get away with murder, literal murder and cannibalism and any kind of sexual crime that we want? Is this the turmeric I'm gonna put into my child curry, or is this the washing machine detergent that I'm gonna wash my blood-stained general uniform? Because all the blood of all of these wars is all on my hands. Is this the detergent I'm going to wash my bloodstained Colin Powell uniform with? Or is this the nuclear WMD that I'm claiming to be from Iraq? I mean, if there's any nukes, it's probably from an American uranium refinery plant. Because America is weaponized, is maximizing its nuclear annihilation potential. But anyway, it doesn't matter. American people don't investigate anything. Even the very highly educated left and liberal university professors, students, and they don't care to look. Either they don't care to look into this lies, or they're cowards, or they're terrible, horrible people too, and they like benefiting from U.S. imperialism and getting the good, securing the oil. It's one of those three things. Either it's a kakistocracy. It's ruled by the worst, the most immoral. And that includes in the university and the intellectual elite and the scientific community, and the academic community, the researchers. It's the worst or the least qualified. You're not qualified. Like Adrian Zenz is definitely not qualified to be a fucking professor of anything. He's not qualified to run a lemonade stand, let alone be providing the #1 cited research across the entire Western world for ostensible genocide, which is it's an extremely serious accusation. Obviously, it is the basis for war. Which is the highest war crime in the United Nations. It is the war crime on which war of aggression specifically. It's the highest crime because it is the crime against humanity on which all the other crimes bloom. Like in this, they all stem from that. The use of chemical weapons, the murder of innocent civilians, the torture, use of torture against people. All these other crimes come out under war of aggression. War itself, right? More often than not, right, particularly, historically, gives birth to all the other crimes. And so beginning a war of aggression. And so again, that's why there's no justice in this world. There's no justice in a Western imperial dominated world. Because if there was, the United States, there wouldn't be a United States anymore. The whole country would not exist. Its entire claims to all of its territory, right, its disputes, as Charles Zhu said, is richly ironic that it's the settler colonial white countries that question China's claims in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Xinjiang, when every single inch of what calls itself the United States is illegitimate. It does not have legitimate claim to any of its territory. Not Hawaii, not Puerto Rico, not California, not the illegally occupied areas of the Algonquin people, not the illegally occupied areas, illegally genocided and stolen areas of the Sioux people. All of Minnesota is just a giant stain. All of Minnesota, like, it's like, it's almost incomprehensible how the level of war crimes the United States wages, the level of things that, and the lack of justice for them. It's hard to even describe, but that's your imperial stormtrooper brain. It's like, well, if maybe there might be something happening here. No, there definitely is genocide happening everywhere in the United States. My people specifically are being attempted genocide as we speak. When they're arresting Native Hawaiians for speaking Hawaiian language in courts of law in 2018, college professor Kaleko Kaeo arrested for speaking Hawaiian in a court of law, bombing our sacred mountain when we're asking for respect of United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. You don't have prior informed and free consent to do anything on that mountain. So you're continuing to you talk about destruction of mosques. There's 2.5 times as many mosques in the Xinjiang region in China than there were only decades ago. You are destroying our sacred site when you're destroying that mountain. That's like destroying you have built hotels over our heiau, our sacred sites. Hawaiians have drastically reduced sacred sites. That's a genocide by your own definition. If you're claiming that they can't practice their religion, we can't even practice our language in Hawaii. Children were beaten for speaking Hawaiian. People could be arrested for speaking Hawaiian. What are you talking? You are the genocider in chief. Throwing these claims around. Anyways, so this concept of the universalization. Everybody does a genocide. No, not everybody does a genocide. You do a genocide. You do 50. You have 57 flavors of shitty ass red dye and cancer preservative filled ketchup, and you have 57 flavors of genocide. That's what you do. You do terrible, watered down, disgusting ketchup to make a cis white straight man boatloads of money, and then you do 57 flavors of genocide to the indigenous people, to the Sioux people, to the Algonquin people, backing the Palestinians genocide in Palestine, in the Gaza Strip, you genociding Muslims all over the world with your Uyghur bombings in Afghanistan. You're the one genociding the Uyghur people. You know who you're genociding? You're genociding the black people in your own country. 2.5 million people in prison illegitimately. That's political prisoners in your prison. You want a forced labor camp? You are the forced labor camp. The Amazon Whole Foods vegan and non-vegan cheese being made by illegally arrested black people for standing in front of a fucking 7-Eleven, for going to school. Hawaii has the highest level of arrests by the police in public schools and in all schools in general. They literally round up Hawaiian and black and brown children in our schools at the highest rate in the United States under the illegal occupation. What are those kids doing now that you round up in the schools and then you send them off into an Arizona plant to mechanically separate Tyson chicken nuggets for 25 cents an hour? That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. You want to talk about forced labor? The forced labor that you don't have any evidence of in Xinjiang is a genocide. If that's a human rights violation, you are committing human rights violation and genocide to Native Hawaiians as we fucking mechanically forced labor separate your chicken nuggets, make your license plates. Every license plate in the United States has slave labor all over it. You are the forced labor camp. You are, and if you are a white person in America that isn't immediately out there anti-racist, anti-war, anti-imperialist, speaking out about these lies about the genocide in Xinjiang, or not supporting them, and B, speaking out about who is spreading this. I just saw a Bloomberg article, again citing Adrian Zenz. If you are not speaking out about this, you are complicit in the genocide. The blood is on your hands, American, Canadian, Australian, New Zealander. The minimum you can do is inform your community, your Discord community, your academic community, your work community, your friends, your family, anybody you can get your hands on, anybody that you can speak to and can listen. You need to be informing everybody that the United States is going to plunge the world into nuclear war, if not push 1 billion people back into poverty, if not, and also impoverish you and your family because a $21 trillion war. You think that was bad in the war on terror? You want to go to war with a 1.4 billion person superpower with actual what will be economically rivaling the United States with actual weapons and allies like Russia? You think that Iraq and the last 20 years of your life, where you lost your healthcare, your housing, your food, because 55% of discretionary spending went straight into the military? That's why you don't have nice things. You know, even Australia, all your money that could have gone for some Australian schools, maybe save some of your koalas that are going to be burnt by the 500 million. As the song of Australian fire, you know, and Arctic ice melting and Australian fire will continue to burn your wallabies and your koalas and your kangaroos. You know, Australia, you're sending all this ASPI and all of this think tanky money, taking it from America, you know, selling your government weapons that it doesn't need, just to prepare for a war. Because you're a little puppet of the United States empire to do neo-colonialism against your own people and to try to increase tensions with a nuclear power. You think that Iraq was bad? You know, we will suffer in Hawaii. We are suffering under your militarization as you build up military, army, and marine troops presently on our mountain and increasing, right? We will suffer here, but you will also suffer. Your empire he's not even giving you a cut anymore. You know, that's why all the millennial and Gen Z are limping. There's a survey that came out that said actually millennial and Gen Z are the National Review, right, said the millennial and Gen Z are no longer, unlike their boomer parents, are not becoming more conservative as they get older. Did you see that one? You know, and that's great, you know. And I said, you know, millennial and Gen Z based for life. Yeah, here it is right here. You know, and that's great. That's really great. You know, millennial Generation Z showing no sign of growing more conservative over time like the boomers did. We must address the age gap. The National Review conservative magazine is really worried that we're running out of conservatives, right? Like the Greatest Generation, though, right, where they were completely destroyed by the capitalist elite in the Roaring 20s, right? The suffering and the impoverishment under this neo-feudal cap, it's worse than the 20s. Because unlike in the 20s, where you had the Pecora Commission, where you had J.P. Morgan trotted out in actually tried in court, where you had mass movements, 1/3 of the nation unionized, huge socialist, communist parties. What do you have in America? What do you have, right? Well, the biggest thing you have actually is the people that are going, this entire project was a failure. Black Lives Matter going, this entire country is illegitimate. Everything about this, it's racism, it's police, it's a carceral system. This country was founded on our slave labor. We are still slaves. They are murdering us and killing us and terrorizing us. The black and indigenous people are really doing the actual. What was a 31 million actual movement out there for? Right? It's against the police, which do what? Enforce white supremacy and enforce capital. You know, in terms of within America, there's what calls itself America. What you have sheepdog AOC over there going, oh yeah, let's all. There's summer camps at the border. Oh, let's all just running apologism for work. She's literally just sheepdogging whatever remains of whatever pretend socialism there was in the West straight into the Democratic. Plutocratic party's hands, the second half of the empire, Imperial's planetary military-industrial complex death cult's hands. Most of it is coming from outside, and it's definitely not even close to the level of participantship of power as a mass-based power movement in the United States than it was in the 30s. So whatever Biden is saying, I'm gonna fix this country, racial healing, economic healing, we're gonna shore up that. No, nothing's gonna be shored up. America's gonna be cannibalized, which is not good, right? It's good that millennials and Gen Z are so fucked by their empire, right? And that's why I said, America's not gonna give you a cut, you know? So if you're thinking, oh, I shouldn't speak about this, I should really just hold out, you know, and not speak out about the lies that are being propagated about China, specifically China. Why am I? Not because I just love it, you know. Well, I mean, it is important to recognize that, you know, that it's an indigenous people of 56 different ethnic regions. Unlike the United States, every single settler in the United States is illegitimate, you know. Whereas this is indigenous people, you know. The indigenous people under the United States, the Sioux people, all these people, the Sioux, Lakota, the Haida in Canada, the Stolo, the Six Nations that America stole its, plagiarized its so-called founding, beautiful, lionized, glorified documents, this great document of the entire Western world, the Constitution is plagiarized, not even followed at that. There's never been any justice in America. There's never been law. There's only the police are slave catchers and the courts are slave auction houses. You know, and George Floyd, George Floyd. The Second Amendment itself is not there to defend against tyranny. The Second Amendment is so that every white male, of a teenager and older is required to have a gun to murder indigenous people. That's what the Second Amendment is, to exterminate indigenous people. The Second Amendment is a genocide amendment. It's called, your duty as an American settler is to genocide the indigenous peoples, to clear the way of nature of insects. That's what they call mestizo in the South and Central American, disproportionately Spanish and Catholic conquistador colonizers, but not that it's the same thing. You know, your job is to have a gun to murder indigenous people so that we can have more space for our white male wannabe king horrible psychopaths like Thomas Jefferson, like Andrew Jackson on your $20 bill that you're still celebrating. America can never really take down all the statues it needs to take down, because if there wouldn't be any statues left There wouldn't be any dollar. All of the money would be on fire because every president and every dollar bill, 5, 10, and 20, is a war criminal, a racist. Abraham Lincoln wanted to sell slaves back to Africa and make a profit. That's the difference. The South is like, let's just keep them in chains so we can keep getting our cotton picked by the whipped backs of black people. And the North was just like, let's make some money selling them back to Africa. I don't really give a fuck about them, actually. I just want to... the North is just like, we're kind of like Britain. Well, like, I don't really give a shit about black people, and we're still racist, and we'll still benefit from colonialism. But the Americans, their serfs are the black people. So we're gonna try to get rid of slavery, not because we care about the black people. No, we're still racist against black people. Black people getting killed. Ask Star Wars Episode 7, 8, and 9's Finn, right? Ask his name is escaping me at this second, right? Ask black people in UK how well that's going for them, right? You notice there are still black no, they don't give a shit about black people. They just wanted to stop the Americans from using black serfs to gain leverage and power and to challenge their disgusting mommy empire of Britain. There's America, Abraham Lincoln, the UK has never given two shits about anybody who wasn't a white, cis, landed aristocrat with feudal or capitalist characteristics. So, that's why you have these continued murders of Dante. That's the continued murders of Eater member Psycap. That's the murder of very recently in Hawaii. There's 2 in the last 2 weeks by the illegally occupying state of Hawaii's Honolulu HPD. And it's a terrible thing when you like as I said, there are Hawaiians even that believe this thing, right? This false lie that all parents are bad. No, all Western APAB, all Western parenting. I wouldn't call it parenting. What Americans and Canadians and the West does to its children is child abuse. They don't do parenting. When you don't treat a child like a human being, whether you physically hit them or you just treat them, you say you do this and that's final. When you treat a child as an object, when you treat a child as less than human, when you just complain about children are so irritating, they're just little animals. When you say those things, that's anti-children. That's disrespecting children. Actually, that's child abuse. You're all abusers. Your entire society is a child abuse factory. You all deserve, this is just, I don't know, that's just what everybody's doing. Yeah, everybody's doing abuse. Everyone was doing slavery. That never made it right. Everyone's doing capitalism. That doesn't make it right. Everyone's abusing, the entire country is abusing the rest of the world with wars and sanctions and debt traps. Not the ones that China are doing. Your actual EU, WTO, IMF, World Bank, and American-backed debt traps with neocolonialism. That doesn't make that right. It will never be right. One day, when all of your empires are gone, because you've all collapsed and devoured yourselves, right? Making planes that don't fly for Boeing. That's the one shining. The silver lining is when America goes to shoot the nukes, they'll have subcontracted. JP Morgan will have made collateralized dead computer programmer obligations based on all of the computer programmers that starved to death working at Boeing. They were making $9 an hour to program the F-737's advanced adversarial networks and AI. They were supposed to make the planes fly. That's why they crashed. And the person that's supposed to be programming the AI on all of the and the software that will launch the nuclear missiles, right? When the warmonger psychopath in chief, every single one of them are that decides I'm gonna nuke China now, tries to push a button, right, to launch a missile. America will have subcontracted out the semiconductors and the wafers and the semiconductors. They can't even get them anymore, idiots. Which is also good because that means America's infrastructure, its nuclear and its military infrastructure is falling apart too. It's awesome. Keep doing that to yourself, you idiots. When you push the button, the programmers will be paid so poorly that the signals will be sent to the nuclear silo to launch, and the missile will instead shoot up into the air, reverse course, and then shoot back into the ground, and then blow a giant hole under the ass of the Pentagon. In a video game, obviously, nobody should ever do anything bad to any country. But if at the rate at which there are aircraft carriers that are literally rusting. I heard America's not going to talk about this, but from people I know within the Navy, active duty as well as former, they're like, a lot of the military infrastructure is actually falling apart. Why? Because literally the military housing in Pearl Harbor, right, in Hawaiian Navy, Army, Air Force, and Marine bases, 25% of all the Hawaii is like owned and controlled by the U.S. military. It's disgusting imperialism. Again, this is like the actual Death Star is actually headquartered here. I wish you could get your disgusting Death Star off of our sacred Hawaiian island mountains, waters and rivers, and stop dropping depleted uranium all over Waianae, Pohakuloa, etc. But you know, if you're just gonna, you're gonna let all your aircraft carriers rust and fall into the sea, I mean, that's better than you shooting the missiles into China and starting nuclear war. You idiots. Anyways, but the aircraft carriers are actually not being properly taken care of. Even the military housing, it's subcontracted corporations from Australia. You know, America's little sheriff for China, America's little puppet down there with Rupert Murdoch, fucking around, brainwashing your entire country with Fox News. Australian subcontractors are taking up the military housing to rebuild and maintain 3 and 4 bedroom and 2, 3, 4 bedroom housing for the the naval sailors, the Marines, all the people that are going to be sitting around playing World of Warcraft with one hand and shooting Hellfire missiles into Yemenis children, or shooting the Hellfire missiles into Pakistani wedding parties, drone bombing activists and leftists in America. Or they're not doing that yet. Those naval, even the people that pilot the drones, even the people that sail on the ships that are supposed to be starting World War III, even the people that are fighting and going through a ground troop and knocking door to door, terrorizing Muslims. Do you care about Muslims? Oh, that's right, you're still in Afghanistan and you're never going to leave, are you? No, it's a lie. America cannot leave Afghanistan if it wants to try, even attempt to contain China. They're never leaving. They're saying that for fucking optics. Biden is a liar. How's the $15 wage going for you? How's the $2,000 check? Are you feeling a lot better now that the CEOs of Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan had their biggest quarter ever? Are you feeling good about Biden? Is he he's really telling the truth nowadays? 50 years of his life spent being a liar in chief. You think he's gonna change now? Absolutely not. America is gonna double down on Armageddon. And this fucking clown and these people in the military that are working for Biden to destroy the world and for neocolonialism, the housing is literally falling apart. The wall I'm talking about in the barracks, the Schofield. Well, I shouldn't give all the specific names, but undisclosed location somewhere in Hawaii, there are. I've been in the I've had friends in the military. I say that very loosely. Although there's a lot of Hawaiians in the military because you can't survive here unless you become a stormtrooper. It's very difficult, and I hate it. It's very sad. You have to become an internal stormtrooper, brutalizing and terrorizing people in the United States, workers and people of color as a HPD, as a cop, or you gotta join the U.S. military and go blow up some innocent people and be a stormtrooper murdering Muslims, killing Uyghurs. You gotta go kill Uyghurs to make your $975,000 mortgage in Lanikai in Hawaii. It's very sad. You gotta go kill do actual genocide for America of Uyghurs. Actual genocide. And also attack your own people. So anyway, that's the only way to survive. But even those people the housing for the military is now actually falling apart because Australian subcontractors, they can take, here's $2 billion, build us new houses for all of our Marines, Navy, Air Force, Army. And they take that money, they take 90% of it, stick it in their Australian subcontractor pocket, right, where they put all of their Northrop Grumman and their Lockheed Martin money. And then, right, and they buy 7 more yachts and 25, $60 million Neo Van Goghs. They're called non-fungible fucking lolcat pictures, non-fungible tokens, fucking around trading a simulacra of a chimera of a hologram of art. That's called NFT. This is part of the dementia of neo-feudal capitalist kakistocracies. I'm just gonna flip fucking non-fungible tokens for $60 million and $80 million and $100 million because we're running out of actual real stuff to do Ponzi schemes on. So we'll just flip like digital recreations, non-fungible tokens of a fucking Gandalf picture stapled to the side of a fucking Damien Hirst art and photograph that. And put that on an Andy Warhol soup can, take a picture of that, and then, it's a simulacra of a false art, of the international money laundering scheme for billionaires and war criminals that is the fine art world. And then I'll sell, but now I can't go to the Louvre. I can't go to the fucking Guggenheim. I can't go to Sotheby's and buy a fucking $2 million shredded picture of a fucking Banksy banana. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go on the internet and I'm gonna play digital Sotheby's billionaire war criminal auction. Right? Move my money across the fucking planet. Anyway, that's neo-feudal capitalism wonkery, but that's part of the destruction of that's actually the good thing. I love it when neo-feudal idiots like just waste all their time, and Elon Musk and the new kings, the techno king, waste all their time screwing around, imploding their own economies, destroying the United States. Because the more that you don't build any actual infrastructure and you take all that money, you let the Marines and the Army and their children waste away as their houses fall apart. Their literal lice, insects, and rats are infesting the Marines and the Army and the naval bases. Even though they're supposed to have you're supposed to give the stormtroopers a good deal, but you're not even giving your fucking stormtroopers a good deal to do all the murder of all the innocent Muslims and the people of color around the world. And so that's good, though. I mean, it's not good for them, but it's good in the sense that if America's military destroys itself, if you take all your Star Destroyers and you crash them into yourself, well, I mean, there's less Ewoks and there's less colonized people in Global South to be killed. So keep doing that, idiots. But yeah, Australia literally was subcontracting for the military housing. The places were falling apart. The children actually died in daycares in military housing in Oahu because of such poor conditions, such dilapidated conditions of the housing. And so, yeah, don't join the U.S. military. Don't join the police. I'm gonna do the opposite of Falcon and Winter Soldier right now, which is what is that? It's a U.S. military propaganda, airbrushing scheme, which is what all U.S. That's what Hollywood is. It's the entertainment arm of the military-industrial complex. And I'm gonna tell you, don't join the U.S. military unless you want to, hate yourself and commit suicide, driving a motorcycle 200 miles per hour down the I-5, shredding your body into shrapnel because you've murdered children. Because that's what you are. You are going to be a child murderer. When you go to Afghanistan, because we're never leaving, when you blow them up with the even if you're just playing with your PS4, you're playing World of Warcraft over here, and then you're playing World of Uyghurcraft over here. World of Warcraft, World of Uyghurcraft, and then you shoot a missile and you kill a Uyghur child, doing actual genocide, and you will hate yourself. You will want to kill yourself, and it will eat you and your quality of life. Even if you get a Porsche, even if you maybe have some healthcare and some housing because you became a stormtrooper, inside your soul will be devoured. You know how I know this? Because I've worked with countless military veterans of all of America's wars: Vietnam veterans, Iraq 2.0, Afghanistan, Syria. As when I was a social worker, many of them were volunteers. Many of the Native Hawaiians, unfortunately, like I said, disproportionately joining Samoans as well. That's why Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Samoa is just they like he's the recruitment tool for the Army and the Marines, because that's what we have to do to try to survive, right? That's why they love recruiting black and brown people to save all their nice white little children, to stop them from getting traumatized, murdering innocent children and blowing up hospitals in Iraq, in Fallujah, which they're trying to airbrush in Call of Duty, and then 6 Days in Fallujah. The gaming industry is also complicit in all of America's war crimes. Disgusting, horrific stuff. Anyways, so never say, I don't want to hear anybody ever again say all humans are bad. Stop saying Ahab. It's all Western imperialists are bad. All we have. I don't want to hear anyone ever again say all parents treat their children not as human beings. No, all Western parents are abusers. I mean, not all of them, but I mean, all those who participate in the project of America are. If you're not, if you are raising children as human beings, you are actually not doing your duty as an American. How are they supposed to have gaslit, traumatized, authoritarian structure accepting, McDonald's workers and capitalist cogs in office cubicle drones, if you haven't abused your child and created a mentality that accepts that they deserve to be ordered around like a little drone? You are not participating in the American project if you are not abusing your children. Actually, you're actually very un-American. You're not very capitalist, because that's what they need. They don't need people that are independent, that can actually ask for their rights and their dignity and their humanity. Not just in a stupid voting booth for some Coke or Pepsi flavored plutocrat war criminal. No, in the workplace. So if you are raising your children to be human beings, if you really want to treat your children, and not just in some Californian liberal bullshit way, I mean like actually treat your children like human beings, you're not raising Americans. You're raising indigenous people. You're raising anti-imperial people, which is not American. You're raising anti-settler colonial people, which is not American. So all AAPAB, all American, AAPAB, all American parents are abusers. Okay? But not all parents are abusers. No. I don't want to hear anybody say that ever again. All humans are bad. All humans are nasty. All humans lived in mutual aid for tens of thousands of years. The indigenous people is not indigenous because they have feather headdresses and they dance around in a powwow. That's the Western colonial engagement and cultural gatekeeping to keep indigenous people in little Barnum and Bailey circuses for their own pleasure and entertainment, like in Waikiki, where we are forced to do bastardizations of our sacred Hawaiian hula, and for your nice fake artificial white sand beach, for a bunch of rich white tourists crying in our ramen as we go to sleep, wishing that we had our actual Hawaii and our actual sacred culture back instead of just a Disneyland version of it, and forced to work in that for $7 an hour. The perception of indigeneity as that which is pre-technological, that which is a specific designation of the American Indian, that which is superstitious, that which is backwards. Those are all themselves racist stereotypes of indigeneity itself. Indigeneity, to me, what it means is, in the literal definition, is that which has existed in peace with nature, with each other, over periods of time. And it's never perfect, but the overarching culture and the overarching ways of the people, existing in mutual respect with each other, with people, with nation to nation, what Hawaiians call pono, kuleana, your responsibility, pono, in righteousness and justice, and in aloha, in deep, wide, expansive love that goes beyond just your immediate family and the child that you like that went to Harvard and self-aggrandized you. That's what it means to be loved in America. It means to provide your father with levels of prestige and respect because you got a magna cum laude from fucking Harvard. That's what it means to be loved in America. Not love. There is no love in America. There's only extortion and centuries upon centuries of regurgitated trauma. There's no love. If loving is anti-America, actual love, like actual aloha, is anti-American. You can't have a workplace that has actual love in it, because then you would actually have to pay your workers what they're worth. That can't exist. You can't have love in politics because you'd have to actually do for the people as opposed to take all their money and send it into go blowing up people in Afghanistan. There can never be love in America, actually. To love is anti-American. To give aloha is anti-American. You're not doing your duty. So when you say, oh, all people are terrible, no, not APAB. All WIPAB, all Western imperialists are terrible, or are bad, or whatever. Do not throw most of the planet is indigenous people. All the Chinese people, there's 1.4 billion people. That's 1.5 times all the Westerners in the world, indigenous people. Vietnam, 97 indigenous people, with 40 times less malnutrition deaths in the United States, with universal health care for their people. With actual accessible housing. 90% of them have land, not for speculation, they just have enough for them all to live on. Basically, there's virtually no housing relative to the amount in the United States. They have 35 COVID deaths, the best in the world. This is the Vietnamese are an indigenous people, right? They aren't dancing in a feather headdress in fucking Waikiki in Vietnam for some white people. Here, look at my fake version of my culture. Let me sing my little ukulele fake dance that was co-opted by Don Ho and some fucking settlers to make a little cute little rinky-dink entertainment for rich white dudes who sexually abuse vast numbers of Native Hawaiian and other hotel care staff. The Vietnam is an liberated indigenous future, like Wakanda. That's why Black Panther, the intelligence community comes out as if it's going to save African countries at the very end. That's bullshit. But it's important in the sense that it represents what Hawaii actually was and what indigeneity can be, which is more advanced in the Western world, right? As I said before, Hawaii literally was more technologically advanced than America. Again, electricity before the White House. I say this several times, but I'm trying to make a point. If I say it one time and then you go tomorrow and you watch 10 different articles about how Hawaiians were backward savages, then you're never going to get this. This is never going to come through. So if the Western world is going to put fucking, $200 billion into, war propaganda, that's approximately how much they're putting into this stuff. A lot of the military budget goes straight into, propaganda films. $500 million alone just to counter the Belt and Road Initiative. So, I don't have $500 billion worth of astroturf to pay everyone to say, hey, Hawaii is actually not a backwards, savage place that America saved. Hawaii was actually more technologically, sociopolitically, literacy-wise, and also economically advanced in the United States. And then America had to push it back down because it was scared of being shown for a backwards, barbaric civilization that it is. With starving homeless people. And so, where we didn't have that. So very similar. There was universal healthcare for Hawaiians as well. Queens Hospital. Every Hawaiian was guaranteed healthcare. The United States, as I brought up on the Luna stream, it was the fact that the United States defunded and attempted to stop Queens healthcare from getting universal healthcare to Native Hawaiians, which plummeted our lifespan from we had a very healthy society, again, 80 to 100 years. We had very healthy people. The illnesses did come in, but even then, we had universal healthcare. Right? When America tried to stop us from getting universal healthcare, under the United Nations definitions of genocide, there's a series of rubric. There's a variety of acts which could constitute genocide. One of them is making the patterns of life or interfering with the situation of the life of a people that would deteriorate their condition and destroy in whole or in part them. And denial of healthcare, by the definition, is one that which the people of Hawaii were genocided by the United States because they did, and our lifespans have decreased. We live 20 years shorter, on average, Native Hawaiians than America. Or it's I don't have the exact number. It's not good, and disproportionate numbers of us are homeless. We're 4 times more likely to be homeless. Again, homelessness alone shortens your lifespan by 30 years. Most likely reason for dying when you're homeless is being stabbed by other homeless people, being attacked by dangers from other homeless people, fighting over cans of pork and beans, and sleeping under the good bench. It's like literally, it's the number one biggest danger. As a former homeless person and as a social worker who worked directly with the homeless populations in Hawaii, I can tell you that's the number one. But then on top of that, drug abuse. You have the police. You are a non-person when you become homeless. You're subhuman. Because America is based on subhumanization of everyone that isn't a rich, landed, cis white man. Like women, for example. Or children, for example. So homeless people, like women and children, are animals to America and the West. So again, that's all. That's So that's again. This is how it all ties together. These are not the homelessness over here, and we're going to deal with that, and then we'll deal with the abuse of women and the denial of women's rights and the denial of their health care for white women and the ripping out of universes of the Hispanic women, like in the concentration camps the United States operates. Look at that. You lift up a rock in America. If there's any rocks left that aren't turned into gravel by its Tomahawk missiles, you lift up a rock in America, you find a genocide. Where's the sanctions and the invasion of the United States for its genocide? There never will be, because there's no justice in a world led by the war criminal genocider in chief, the United States. Anyways, so but the healthcare for women, that's over here. That's again compartmentalization. That's one thing over here, and we're gonna deal with that thing. We're gonna have a Biden task force. I'm gonna appropriate $200 million to go investigate why women are having their uteruses ripped out if their skin is darker than a cinnamon chai dulce latte. We'll investigate while the white women can't get access to the birth control. Well, I don't know why that is. Why? We'll have another $200 million task force for the police to investigate to stop anti-Asian hate crime. It's like giving, hey, Emperor Palpatine, take $200 million and give the stormtroopers $200 million to investigate why all these Ewoks have little laser holes through their fucking foreheads. Let's have the AT-AT walkers with like a LGBTQ plus and a trans flag and a Black Lives Matter flag march through Endor, and let's investigate. Let's have Empire task force, right? Like, this is what Biden's doing for the black people in America. Let's investigate, and the Asian people as well, Asian hate crime. Let's investigate why all of these Ewoks have their entire tree houses burnt to ash, like California's redwood, and let's investigate why they're all dead on the side of the road in their indigenous forest, right? As a Vietnamese coded space alien. Let's investigate why they... No, you fucking killed them all. That's why America can never address anti-Asian hate crime, because America is an anti-Asian hate crime. Your Chinese Exclusion Act, Chinatown ghettoization, fucking Me Love You Long Time in your so-called anti-war movies full of Asian hate, and treating it as an alien civilization, your personal sex slaves, your personal chef for all of the liberal cities in the United States. All the Chinatowns are just noodle cooking for all the rich white people and all the people of all different privileged people of all different races. But America can never stop anti-Asian hate crime, because America is an anti-Asian hate crime. America can never stop anti-black racism, because America is founded on anti-black racism. America can put $7 trillion into fucking investigation of why George Floyd died. Let's have 25. Let's have the medical examiner. Let's have 6 medical examiners. Let's have the fucking Mayo Clinic doctors investigate every cell of George Floyd's body and see how many ways can we investigate how did he die. I mean, there's a fucking video of him being murdered. You can have a fucking you can put $1 billion into quantum physics. Let's go back in time and recreate all of George Floyd's exact molecule by molecule accurate murdering of Derek Chauvin on George Floyd's neck. It will tell you exactly what you need to know. And you can the video. You don't even we don't need all of this. You don't need to know what you need to know. You don't need $1 trillion. Most of this money that's going to be put into this task force is just going to go straight into locking up more black and brown people and killing more George Floyds. You don't need America cannot solve. This is like asking, like as Anand Giridharadas I think pointed out, having the Davos crowd, was it the elite charade of pretending to save the world, right? Anand Giridharadas asking the Davos crowd is a family reunion of the people that destroyed the world, right? And asking the plutocrats, of the United States and the Western world, how to save the world. It's like asking arsonists how to put out fires. Asking America how to stop anti-Asian, black, or any other racism. It's like asking the fucking Capones to watch You're Safe. Asking America to stop. Let's investigate human rights abuses, right? Asking America to investigate some human rights abuses. This is like asking sharks about I wonder where all the fish in this little tide pool went. Like where all the fish in this area went. I mean, well, I fucking ate them all. I'll have a shark task force to investigate the eating of the pelagic fish in this region of the ocean. I don't know where they went. All these little fish. I fucking ate them all because I'm the human rights abuser in chief. Because I'm the fucking war criminal in chief. Because I'm the fucking racist in chief. My entire society is funded on white supremacist capitalism, and it never will not be that. It will always be this way. And if you attempt to change it, you'll find out what America's true face is, which is Donald Trump. And also, we have a Capitol Hill riot. That's what the police and military were the people that were at the Capitol Hill riot, going to fucking make America America again. White supremacist, capitalist ass place. What are you sliding a little? What, you have a black president? Fuck you. We're gonna make this a white, racist, capitalist fucking place. Kill us some N-words. That's what America is. To the core. Fascist to the core. The people that are actually doing the actual work in the United States are not the people that are like on the side of the indigenous people that are like land back, motherfucker. I understand why the Chinese stay out and a lot of the other powers stay out of all this, but I mean, the Chinese can even go like, actually they are calling out America. America is attacking and attacking and attacking and attacking and attacking and attacking them on all these things. You have this human rights abuse. You have no legitimacy here. You have no legitimacy there. And it's like, no, your entire land is stolen. Your entire country is illegitimate. You are committing multiple genocides in and outside of your country. Your neo-colonization of all of the global South is illegitimate. Everything about you is illegitimate. Your presidents routinely have less than 50% approval rating. Your so-called democracy is illegitimate. The American government, as the Chinese rightfully pointed out in Alaska at the summit, you do not, when Biden was and Blinken, Mr. Tony Blinken over there, all these fucking little warped criminal puppets sitting around lobbying accusations based on flimsy Nazi crackerjack box degree having evidence and about X and Y and Z and human rights violations. And it's like, no, you do not represent your own. You are the number one human rights violator. A, B. You do not represent your own. You do not represent the world community, because America is saying this like the world again. Blinken and the Biden administration in this confrontation between China and the United States, we're trying to claim that we represent the world opinion. The United States is the leader of the free world, the good world. We are the good, the free, and the democratic. And you, China, are the bad, evil CCP authoritarian regime that are crushing the world. And we represent the world in calling you out in your crimes against humanity in Xinjiang and et cetera, et cetera. And and China said like, no, this is exactly China did. I'm glad that they did this. They're saying exactly what I said. Do not throw all of humanity under the bus. Do not say all humans are bad. That's not fair to the Native Hawaiians, the indigenous peoples. That's not fair to the Vietnamese peoples who fought imperialism, who don't have zero corruption, but who have saved the economy and their people by deprioritizing the profits of the rich and the powerful and prioritizing the health and the people's well-being above all else, and shutting things down, getting COVID testing and treatment out early, stopping businesses and the government punishing businesses who tried to price gouge, unlike what Amazon did, fucking jacking the price of Purell and toilet paper and making fucking killings. Including the entire U.S. government was over there lying about the pandemic to its own people, with Loeffler Berg going, oh, it's just going to disappear. Trump, Democrats and Republicans and Trump, it's just going to disappear. Withholding evidence from the Senate Intelligence Committee, knowing that it would be worse than, and I quote, the Spanish flu, which itself is a racist, inaccurate term, but it would be worse than the flu of the early 20th century. They knew this in January. And what did they do with that money? What did they do with that information? I'm sorry, that money. Information is money in capitalism, and America can never have an educated society because capitalism is based on asymmetrical information access. Loeffler and Burr and 4 other senators and Donald Trump and countless other politicians utilized this information not to the benefit of the people of America. They could have shut down early and done what they needed to do, as Vietnam and China did, but no. What did they? They used that information, hoarded it onto themselves, dumped all of their aircraft and hotel stock, and bought Amazon and Zoom, right? And they bought the tech stocks to make money from information that could have saved almost 600,000 lives. And that's not counting all the people that were displaced, homeless, died of homelessness, died because of the knock-on impacts of just the catastrophic destruction of the American people. I don't think I need to tell you how bad it has been, do I? Your entire economy gone. People's lives, children's lives disrupted. 1 out of 5 people, tens of millions of people, permanent brain, mental disabilities, additional brain fog, dementia. 1 out of 5 people will get a permanent a neurological disorder from COVID-19, physical disabilities, long COVID. All of your shops, stores shut down, tens of millions losing jobs, tens of millions losing their entire access to housing, everybody out on the street. You are all annihilated. For who? For who? For a handful of senators to make multi-millions of dollars, trading billionaire stocks to make them billions of dollars. The 2020 made multiple people multi-hundreds of billions of dollars. That is no, not ANAB. All nations are bad. Your country fucked you into annihilation. Your country murdered 600,000 of your own people. Disproportionately black and brown. They gave body bags to indigenous people and the Sioux people and the Algonquin people, but also killed countless of your own people. Your country murdered 600,000 of you and displaced, made homeless, healthcareless, and housinglessness, and caused brain damage and lung damage and permanent disabilities to tens of millions. For who? For what? So that JP Morgan and Wall Street could make on one day the single greatest profits in the history of capitalism. In the middle of, I think it was June or July, they on one day They made the record profits the same day that the biggest decimation of the entire U.S. economy and its people's health was announced. The American neo-feudal plutocracy cannibalized you, and they said, "Oh, that's the best thing ever." Americans are dying. The homelessness is through the roof, and the rich and United Health Group, so-called healthcare company, America only has universal death care and universal wealth extraction. United Health Group made $6 billion in the projected $3 billion, not giving healthcare. Aetna, Cigna, same thing. Bill Gates is over there salivating, pushing for vaccine apartheid, bloodletting the world to charge as much as possible to make as many trillions of dollars with vaccines as we can. And they were salivating, and the Wall Street said, amazing, amazing. We've annihilated our real economy. We've decimated our New York shops, hotels, restaurants. Broadway's never going to open up again. All our theaters shut down. China surpassing with record soaring beyond America's box office because America can't open a theater. You can't open the fucking Disneyland without killing people. You can't have any shops, restaurants. 40% of small businesses jeopardized. That is amazing that we have annihilated our own economy, annihilated our own people. Let us reward ourselves with central bank printed quantitative easing infinity free fucking money and give ourselves fucking multi-$10 million bonuses because we are doing the Lord's work here in Wall Street. That is not ANAB, not ACAB. All countries are bad. Vietnam didn't do that. You know, some people are like, oh, you know, we have to call for the demolition of all of these governments have to go, blah 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 blah. You know that all families, all individuals, and all governments do have problems. And one day, I hope we have a stateless, classless, moneyless society. Absolutely. However, the Vietnamese government did not do what the American government did to its people. Even the Chinese government they shut the economy down. They have hundreds of times. Right now, they still have 200 times less cases. Their economy still running. They were back on track. The Vietnamese back on track. These are not comparable. No, they're not the same. Oh, it's an authoritarian regime. It's an authoritarian regime. Stop parroting your racist American brain poison. Thank you very much. 93.5% of the country actually approved by Harvard study. Harvard academics, they have no incentive. Again, Harvard is a fucking Emperor Palpatine training facility for fucking war crimes. They hate China. Are you kidding me? They have no incentive to give a good rap to the Chinese government, but the CPC, they had to admit even themselves that they were pondering why is there a 93.5% approval rating in China, including in Xinjiang by Uyghurs. It's puzzling because America can't, the West cannot, and I remember reading the report, and the Harvard professors are pondering in very sesquipedalian terms, how is this even possible that the Chinese people, this demographic, could possibly evaluate their government at such high such high levels of regard? How could they give such high approval rating to their officials, right? Because we know, this is not, we've never seen this. We don't see this in Britain. I don't see this in Germany even. I don't see this even in SOCDEM countries. I don't even see this in Sweden. How is it possible that this government could have such a high approval? And they had to admit, this is not like, these are the people that tell, fake leftist YouTubers to go CCP propaganda. Everybody in China has a fucking AI programmed in their brain, Neuralink drone. No, it's America that has Elon Musk trying to put Neuralinks in your head to tell you what to think and writing your fucking neural patterns. No. The difference is that, they actually bring 850 million people out of poverty and quadruple wages for people, where America is making you poorer. Even Britain. How's Britain going, by the way? With your tea sipping, oh, my Prince racist Philip with the dead fucking literal Nazi. Oh. Sipping tea while all you starve and die. How's Brexit going? Having fun with no food and no resources, and your economy spiraling like a fucking British jet that's poorly built, like American jets crashing into a school bus in Afghanistan. That's what the next thing is, just kamikaze American and British planes, just kamikaze. You can just fly Boeing planes into kill Uyghurs in Afghanistan. When America and Britain, also Australia slitting the throats of Uyghur children. Really, really great stuff. Australia, the genocidal hypocrites. And so. This notion that all countries are bad also. None of them are perfect. Native Hawaiians, as I said, we're not perfect. Vietnamese, not perfect. Corruption, yes. You know, what does it mean though? I mean, like, there are like actual this bad apple. You can tell because the bad apple actually goes to prison or gets kicked out. You know, that's how you can tell you have a somewhat, not perfectly, somewhat functioning government until we have stateless, classless, moneylessness, right? And to say that, oh no, but if the Vietnamese and Chinese governments were like the American government, they would have annihilated the Chinese people for the profit of the richest people in fucking Shanghai and Hong Kong and Taiwan. There are rich people there. That's not good, right? But they did not annihilate the Chinese people for the benefit of the rich, like the United States did, like Britain did, like Brazil continues to do. You fucking disgusting fascist Bolsonaro, puppet of the West, burning all of the indigenous people's forests in the lungs of the earth so that Canadian mining companies can extract all the copper, lithium, gold, or anything else that they can possibly get their Canadian mining fucking hands on, stick it into our Toronto Stock Exchange, and then buy some more yachts and penthouses in Hawaii. You fucking Canadian genocidal hypocrites of Hawaiians and of the indigenous people of Brazil. And so this idea that they're not all the same. They're like materially, statistically. I mean, do they teach anything in universities, in any accredited university, NYU, Harvard, Yale? I mean, I know they don't teach much there. Everybody gets a gentleman's B because everybody who shows up gets $6.5 million worth of mommy and daddy's Texas oil money to forge their transcripts, so they with a photograph of their face photoshopped onto the Harvard basketball team to say that they got an athletic scholarship because little Georgie W couldn't fucking stay awake in a math class. So I know at Harvard they don't teach literally anything except how to be a psychopath. But at NYU, at Michigan State University, at Wyoming, at University of British Columbia, in Australian universities, do they teach anything there? Do they teach anything about statistics? Right? Can you run some fucking numbers for me? And let's look at the numbers for the total population of China's COVID numbers. Because if you can't do this, then the entire Western intellectual system is completely broken, and is you should all just immediately drop out. Well, because your fucking college student debt is the next weapon of mass financial destruction to demolish whatever remains of your parents' 401k, your house, 150 million, 20 million, and falling American homeowners. So you might want to drop out just for that. But if they're not teaching you how to do fucking basic statistics, then I'm teaching my own children how to do this because we do Native Hawaiian indigenous education here at home, and education includes math and science and reading, but it also includes agriculture, learning. I'm teaching the kids already know how to program video games at this age. One of our kids is reading like several grade levels above her level, but that's we do less school per day than the average public school. We only do like a couple hours of formal math and reading and science school. Like we're not doing it all day. But because you know why? Because public schools are prisons to babysit children for mommy and daddy to go be abused in the workplace by boss. Public schools are not, and private schools as well. Not really. They're not really there to educate anyone. They're there to create cogs. Private schools are there to create fucking slave masters, but the public schools are there to create little cogs. They don't need to learn any math. It doesn't really matter. What math are you gonna need when you're fucking working the checkout? You're gonna hit a bunch of buttons. What you need is to have the psychological abused mindset that teacher, mommy, and daddy is gonna abuse me if I ever do anything wrong and ask for democracy in my workplace. That's what school's for. It's a place of abuse and slave production. Let's do some math though. Let's see if you have any fucking statistics skills anywhere in the West. I don't think you do though, unfortunately. Otherwise, you wouldn't keep fucking sharing Adrian Zen's based articles from BBC, Reuters, Human Rights Watch, the New York Times. But let's find out. China has 4,636 deaths, 90,000 cases. China's population is 1.4 billion. U.S. population is approximately 330 million. U.S. COVID-19, 566,000 deaths, and estimated over 600,000 within the summer. Your COVID cases are rising again. Why? Because you have vaccines. You're hoarding the vaccines. And even with your fucking vaccines, hoarding multiple times the amount that you need, denying the Global South access to them, you fucking genocidal hypocrites. China this week delivered near 120 million approximately vaccines straight to Africa, straight to the countries that needed the most, the poorest countries. What have you done? What have you done, America, for the countries that you bomb, that you claim to care about, that you claim to save with your freedom and democracy? What have you done for them? You've hoarded the vaccines. Your Bill Gates is a fucking planetary medical war profiteer, pushing for the continued maintenance of the patent system to stop anybody from getting access. China gave the Sinovac formula away to Brazil recently because they needed it. So no, not all countries are bad. Well, all countries have bad aspects, but not all countries are fucking. Not all countries are absolutely abominable. They have literally, China gave half of all the manufactured vaccine this week with Sinovac and other vaccines to the Global South, to poor countries. Russia as well. The EU only gave like 30 million away. Peanuts. Together, the China and Russia have given out 20 times more than the entire Western world. The wealthiest countries in the world. UK, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You fucking hypocrites. You horrible, plutocratic, colonizer, murderers of the Global South. You global wealth extractors. You actual debt trappers. You actual debt trappers. You actual vaccine apartheid doers. America, Canada, UK. Canada's over there going, America, please give us some vaccines. And America's like, fuck you. America will fuck its own. America, like Americans, will fuck their own friends. They'll stab their buddy in the back for 10 cents more on the profit. They flip their wives like they're flipping cars, like trophy wives in New York. They pay them $10,000 a night if the sex is good. If you spank Donald Trump properly, like Stormy Daniels with the right magazine, then you get an extra $5,000 bonus. America doesn't love anybody, not even its own family, not even its own wives. These are all sports cars with supermodel characteristics. America doesn't love Canada, doesn't care. It's all interfeudal warring. It's fucking even. You're supposed to have. Come on, you're supposed to have some imperial solidarity with Canada and Australia. They're your little lapdogs stealing the CFO of the actual worker cooperative. It's a Hui, Huawei. They're committing international crimes against humanity in Canada for you. You're supposed to give them some fucking vaccines. No, America's like, fuck you. No, Canada, fuck you. Australia is being like, please help us out. America's like, no, fuck you. You're gonna keep working for ASPI and shooting, buying our Tomahawk missiles so you can sell more, make more money, war profiteering with, and taking pictures of Chinese actual preschools that aren't bombed, and then pretending like they're concentration camps by paying a fucking a 20-year-old to Photoshop fucking towers on them and go, this is the concentration camp for Uyghurs. This is why we have to bomb some more. I'm sorry, we have to save the Uyghurs. Australia going, America, can we please have the vaccines? Absolutely not. When the nuclear war with China has started, then we'll think about giving you some vaccines. Okay, Australia, be our little lapdog, you little puppet. Anyways, Australia has the unfortunate luck of being very close to China, so America has to use them, like it's a little lapdog, the little sheriff down there. At least you get some American Lockheed money though. That's nice. That's a nice deal for all the Australian professional managerial class. You can sit around and fucking blue checkmark tweet war propaganda all day long. It's really nice. So anyway, America has 940 deaths, 566,000. So let's do a little bit of math, okay? Things they don't teach you in the so-called school system. So U.S. If you have 566,000, 31, 330 million. So if you got China as 1,400,000,000, it's about 330 million. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's about 4.2 times as many, 4.25 times as many people in China as in the U.S. So if China, to have an equal comparison, if it would be like if China had 4.24 times, what was it, 500 U.S. COVID deaths. Trying to get the, I'm gonna get an exact number. 566, just for fun. Pretty exact. 566,000 deaths. Okay, so China had the same number of deaths. It would be like China having per capita 2.399840 approximately 2.4 million deaths. Okay, China's actual deaths, okay, is what was it again? Yeah, 4,600. Okay, so 2.39, so 2.4240000 divided by the 2.4 million. Okay, divided by 4,636. So China has 517 times less deaths than the so-called most prepared country for COVID-19, the most prepared for a global pandemic in the world. Remember this? U.S., UK, and they were 1 and 2. China was like 30 something probably. I forgot. It was way down the list, right? Vietnam, even lower than China, right? Vietnam is about I forget the exact number. It's about 5 to 10 times less than China. So Vietnam is like 1,000 times, at least 1,000 times or more less deaths than United States. And that's just the deaths. That's not the cases. The cases also, because the cases matter, right? If you get COVID-19, the damage to your body, the damage to the economy, the damage is gonna spread even if you don't die. It's actually it's not the best measurement, but it's good as an approximate measurement. But even there, vastly less cases, vastly less deaths. Okay, so all the governments are not bad in terms of dealing with a pandemic, or they're not all equally bad, right? Again, do not throw all of humanity under the bus for what is Western capitalist imperialism and their culture's crimes. Not everybody is doing this, because when you say that, the solution is America has to come in and liberate these people, or the West has to come in and liberate these people, or somebody, just some rationally interested individuals will independently liberate themselves from all the evils all over, and like everyone, if it, it's not fair to people who have organized. It's any sufficiently advanced human organization is indistinguishable from some type of government. Like the Hawaiians had a form of government, right? It's just ways to organize and manage, to deal with resource allocation, to deal with justice, restorative justice in Hawaiian's case, right? We had methods to deal with this stuff, right? Now it was not as hierarchical. It wasn't like with police coming in and killing anybody who didn't, do what the king wanted, or knights in the case of kings. But there were ways of dealing with problems in the society, making sure people had what they needed, dealing with justice, dealing with perpetuation of culture, all these types of things, right? And there was a form of government, right? Now it was much less carceral, it was non-carceral, it was much less resulting in war, resulting in suffering, resulting in starvation, resulting in inequality, right? But it's a form of government, right? Vietnam has, Vietnam and China and Cuba, they would have much smaller militaries and forces that were dedicated to government activities if the fucking imperialism wasn't there constantly trying to fight literal war, right? Hybrid war, information war, trying to shove capitalist Starbucks into every block in China, trying to open up into Vietnam, having a Red Bull factory that's trying to pay people starvation wages while the owner is raking in the dough, so that some white fucking so-called leftists can sit around and say the N-word on a Twitch stream for $50 million a year. That's why they have to have strong, organized governmental systems to resist against this imperialist action. Same thing for the Hawaiians. We have to have strong, resilient Hawaiians in the local government here. Otherwise, in the Big Island, where we have 0 evictions for the last 5 years, it's why we have basically like very little homelessness or no homelessness. Even now, America is trying to force its way into the Big Island as we speak, and I don't like it at all. It's trying very hard because, the same way that they're buying land in rural and less city areas, like all of the American wealthy and elite, they're flooding into Hawaii, shoving out more Hawaiians. But Hawaiians have to resist that ongoing economic colonialism, ongoing settler colonialism here in Hawaii. And if we don't have an organized people on the Big Island, right, in the government that said, no, you absolutely will not rezone Silver Spook's downtown into a gentrified Hilton Hawaiian Village, Sheraton luxury suite to do fake plastic versions of our sacred dances. Again, here, pour a bunch of artificial white sand, turn it into a Disneyland resort for rich Westerners to come and stay, and we all become servants. So the Big Island has economic, financial, organized in what I would call huis ultimately, in terms of the ownership of the physical tractors, the bulldozers, the organization, the actual means of the production of housing, of buildings, potentially of hotels, and the Hawaiian, and we have economic power, we have, and there's military power as well. I'm not going to talk about that too much, but let's just put it this way: we have twice the rate of veterans, and disproportionately they are Native Hawaiian of the United States. And the United States has a lot of fucking veterans. It is the Death Star, and they are stormtroopers in America. We have twice the rate of that, and they're really pissed the fuck off that they had to go to Vietnam. And a lot of people, actually, a lot of the most radical people are people that were ex-U.S. military, and they're like, what the fuck was I doing colonizing people in Iraq when we're doing the same thing to people in Iraq? Literally, Dr. Keanu Sai was somebody who literally, one of the early radical, America does not have any legitimate claim, is literally suing the United States to this day in the international court for the sovereignty of Hawaii. He discovered, because when he went in the U.S. military, he was told, oh, we're gonna liberate countries and bring democracy and freedom, and he said, no, that's not what we're doing in the Middle East. He was in there in the Gulf War in the 90s. My job is to go and overthrow with hybrid war, with direct force multipliers, with bombs, with tanks, with soldiers and boots on the ground, and with psychological ops, with brainwashing, with attempted coups, and destabilizing regions, and then inserting moderate rebels, and then trying to undo regimes that America does not like, governments that America does not like. Regime is a word that is specifically used to suggest some kind of permanent authoritarian dictatorship, blah, blah, blah. America has a permanent authoritarian dictatorship of its 90 after the leading digit bank account havers. That's what America has. America has an actual authoritarian dictatorship, not China. Otherwise, they wouldn't be giving it a 94% approval rating. Anyways, so, but it's authoritarian. Emperor Xi Jinping, Emperor fucking Musk, Emperor fucking Bezos. No, fuck you. Anyways, Emperor fucking DC fucking eating your entire lunch. What are you talking about? No, but I can wave my flag and have a freedom rally to be an asshole and cough in each other's faces and kill more Americans with COVID-19. I have my freedoms, though. I have the freedom for cis white straight guys to make millions of dollars and abuse all of their slaves in the workplace. Oh, I'm sorry. They're very free workers. Very free, at will, very, very fully educated, very free, prior informed consent workers at the McDonald's, at Amazon, right? Right? We're absolutely not trying to stop them from getting democracy at Amazon by literally fucking using every infrastructure, digital surveillance capitalism, deleting their accounts if they try to talk about unionizing, wiping them off the internet, physically brutalizing anybody trying to vote, right? Or the police. It's not like we never had democracy. We are fully free. No, you're absolutely. America never had any democracy anywhere. America had democracy wallpaper. That's all it ever had. It had a fucking flag on the side of a concentration camp. That's all it ever had. It had a fucking Statue of Liberty holding a fucking torch. It's the light. The Statue of Liberty torch is the light on the head of a civilizational anglerfish. It's like, come to America. Give us your tired, you're hungry, and you're starved, and give us your restless, so that we can like make them homeless and fucking work them to death in our factories, in our Vanderbilt steel, in our Carnegie billionaire vehicles, in our neo-feudal lords fucking Amazon warehouses. Give us your hungry and your starved, so they can starve to death working as college professors for $7.50 an hour, living in a Toyota Corolla, being food insecure. Give us your hungry and your starved, so we can starve them some more, and also weaponize their labor to our billionaires' advantage. America never provided any opportunity to anyone, with the exception of cis white straight patriarchal psychopaths. Anyways, and assholes. So you come to America because you want to be a fucking asshole, basically. It's the land of assholes. They should call it, the United Assholes of settler colonial illegitimacy. That's what it is. Anyways, never say all governments are the same. Again, never say that all humans are bad. It's not the case. Humans are good until they're abused by their Western imperialism and seeded colonial structures. Hawaiians didn't, as I said, tying it back to this thing. Hawaiians didn't do this to the children. What it was the physical spanking and that abuse, that was not a thing that we did. That was brought in by the colonizer. I just gotta reiterate what I was talking about at the beginning. In Native Hawaiian culture, the keiki children are treated as people worthy of respect. Beating as parenting was brought in by colonizers. Western domination culture treats kids as property, as subhuman, along with women and the first serf of the lord of the house, which is the white man. Your abused childhood in the West is the trauma that conditions you for an abusive, hierarchical, capitalist world that you cannot escape. Even if you change bosses, even if you change landlords, or you change politicians, you cannot escape this abuse. You will forever be traumatized. You can never go to therapy. They don't do therapy. They notice that they don't do therapy for traumatized workers, do they? Being threatened with your entire ability to live, your housing, your healthcare. That's why it's all employer-based healthcare. So that's another whip they can slap your back with. You don't work here. You will work here, or you're not. You're gonna die. Your daughter's gonna die. You're gonna lose your house. Choose between treating your colon cancer, even though your husband's a radiology doctor in Ohio, and could treat your cancer and save your life, 40-year-old woman. But if you go and get that cancer treatment, it's gonna cost you so much, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, that you and your husband and your children will become homeless. So now, you will work for abusive corporation X. You will work as a Walmart manager. You will work forever as X and Y and Z. You will not ask for a raise, because if you try to leave, do you see anybody hiring anybody with good benefits anywhere else? No, you don't. You and your family and your children will all suffer homelessness, or you can just kill yourself with your cancer. Just die falling on your metastasizing colon cancer. And that's what a lot of people do. Somebody actually had a Bernie Sanders rally in 2018 that was saying exactly that. It was a doctor who was crying his eyes out, talking about his wife who hid her cancer from him for over a year, and right before she died, as the cancer ate her internal organs and took her life, wrote a letter, said, I hid my cancer from you because I knew that you would make me go to the hospital and get treatment, and I didn't want to see you, my husband, and our children become homeless. So I killed myself. I literally murdered myself with my own cancer so that you guys could live. That's abuse. That's America. That's your politicians, your bosses, and your landlords abusing you. You cannot escape that. The trauma of finding your loved one has an illness, somebody getting into a car crash, your wife, your child bleeding out on the street, their intestines coming out. They could be saved if you call the ambulance, but you are crying. Not because, please don't call the ambulance, because if you call the ambulance, I mean, if I die, that's one thing, but if we could go bankrupt and my children will lose everything. That's that every moment of the day that you know in your mind that your boss can take everything from you, can kill your children, can impoverish your, because your kid's life expectancy is going to drop 30 years the second you become homeless. The second you become destitute, you are not human in America. That knowledge in your mind every second you're working, when you comes up for potentially a pay raise, when you're abused sexually, physically, or financially in the workplace, signing an NDA, this is normal in game companies especially, raped in hotels. When you think maybe I should stand up for this abuse that I'm enduring in this job, being paid starvation wages, fucking walking to work as I did as a social worker, and you ask, maybe I should ask for my human rights. America doesn't have human rights. Every capitalist cog is a human rights violation. But when you think, maybe I should ask for a raise, maybe I should unionize. Oh wait, but what if I get caught? What? No, I can't. What if I lose my health care? What if my boss? What if this and that? The trauma of the terror, in the same way that the police don't have to murder every single American, you have to live in terror. That what if a police sees, as Carmen Kennedy said, as a black man in Canada, just opening, there's a SUV in a middle class area, disproportionately white. Of course it is. So it's settler colonial North America. There was a vehicle open, and his aunt was living in this place, and he thought his aunt forgot a purse in it was like a reasonably nice Honda SUV, and he thought, I should go grab my aunt's purse. But then he thought, what if a white woman or person in this neighborhood sees me, a black man, enter a vehicle, grab something, not even know what happened, just a black man entering a vehicle, coming out. They could call the cops. I could be dead. To be black into America is to live in terror for your entire life. They don't have to kill every black person and lock up every black person. They just have to terrorize every last person. They don't have to beat and break the wrists of every striker. All they have to do is make you live in terror that you could lose your house and your children will be destitute. They have to make you live in terror that your child that has spina bifida, that has that your family that have your loved one that needs insulin and it's so expensive. You have a disability, and if anyone finds out you have a disability, if you even try to strike, they might investigate. They might find you have a disability and fire you for having a disability. Or if you lose your health care because you lose your job, you and your children could be completely fucked, and your family could go without necessary health care to preserve their life. Healthcare is really key. So they don't need whips. All they gotta do is threaten you with murdering yourself on your own fucking chemotherapy lessness. You know, all they gotta do is just threaten you with like being unable to have an ambulance when you're bleeding out on the side of the road. All they gotta do is just threaten you and your parents that you have to take care of because there's no health care in America and there's no elder care because Americans don't care about their own fucking families a lot of the time and their own elders, unlike Native Hawaiians. All they gotta do is just threaten now every second of the day the terror in your mind that you know. If you don't do what boss wants, if you try to unionize, you utter the word unionizing within fucking 10 feet of any Alexa, of any Google Home, of any phone, in any email, on Twitter, on Discord, even in a Signal so-called encrypted network that's been bought out by the US government, which is the US corporations, which is the US government, and so they all have it. If you even say the word union, you will be destroyed. You will be fired in an environment in which the employees have all the power, all the leverage, because everyone else is terrified that they will lose their coverage, that they will lose their healthcare, that they will lose their housing, that they won't be able to afford the fucking $4 per gallon water that it costs to live in Honolulu, Hawaii. How am I gonna pay for the water that I need to not fucking die of dehydration? Like my friend Kama, also known as Positive Synergy, almost died as a Native Hawaiian because it's $125 a month to not die because the water comes out smelling like burning plastic, liquid Drano. In his area, bright orange, smells like literally burning plastic, leaves a bright red orange residue all over everything. And he almost died. That's the terror. You don't need to kill everyone. You just have to have everybody in fear of dying from police bullets, if you're black, from lack of your health care, if you're not, from losing your job that you need for everything else, if you are this $300,000 of student loans you have to pay back, and if you don't, you fucking screwed. It's all little leashes on you. There is no, that's all abuse. The terror that you undergo as an American worker is abuse. It's the threat of violence. Not every slave has to be whipped every second of the day. You just whip a few slaves and you have all those other slaves watch, and they all live in terror. Right? When you hear that story of your friend whose wife killed herself so that you wouldn't become homeless. When you see that homeless person on the street, that's the slave that's getting the whipping. It's called the worker. That's what you are, right? Well, it's not the same, but slavery is just much more profitable form of feudalism. I'm sorry, capitalism. I'm sorry, feudalism. I'm sorry, I can't remember. It's the same fucking thing. A slave is, you can extract 99% of the wealth. You can feed them pizza. You can feed them fucking the worst parts of the cow. You give them a little ox. That's why oxtail soup is really popular among the Chinese slaves that built the railroads. And you can have lots of cabbage and just rotten vegetables, and they can make coleslaw and goulash and all that. Just make some garbage. You eat the steak and you eat the best part, and you give them all the shit. Slaves, you barely got to spend any money on food. You can leave them in the barn with the pigs rolling around in the slop, and then you call them filthy, dirty, and barbaric. And you have accredited universities hire sociologists and anthropologists and political scientists to write entire books and have long careers as cis white men writing about how black people were genetically designed to be slaves, and they are smelly, filthy, and we have entire peer-reviewed science that proves phrenology. And but you're the people that fucking put them inside of the barn and give them no education, and you say that the African people is just they're less genetically fit, they are less intelligent, and then you invent entire IQ and SAT testing to provide a veil of scientific cover to your racism and eugenics.
And that's just an optimum form of capitalism. The white worker is just it's instead of 99% labor value extraction and permanent manufactured servitude with a few slave whippings. You got to pay a poor white man, just pay him, $7, $5. You pay him near starvation wages, and he'll have, he'll like take all of his hate and trauma out on the black back, whipping and ripping the flesh from the black back. Get back in that black slave N-word, pick that cotton. And so then that's very cheap for extracting labor value under slavery. A white supremacist race of slavery of the United States, which it still has, in prisons, as well as in all of the concentration camps, and $3 an hour, or I'm gonna call ICE, if you try to unionize Hispanics in the Coke Foods, Coke Farms, mechanical stuff. Some of the restaurants, you can pay the Hispanic people under the, but again, the whip on the Honduran migrants in the French fusion Latin restaurant owned by a rich white American or UK chef trying to be Gordon Ramsay, paying all of his slaves, his under the table migrant workers to make the actual, peas and carrots and the souffle and the octopus inks, squid ink pasta, and do actually the hard labor of producing the food, while you, the chef, can come out and just smile over all of your entertained bourgeois Burning Man festival attendee fucking Californian white audience. All those little slaves, the terror for them, the whip for them, is the fear of going back to the hellscape that America produced in Honduras, in Nicaragua, in any South American country where America implanted fucking fascists to do neoliberal death squad murder. That's the terror there is you're just going to be shot by a hit squad, and no human rights organization is going to hear your screams in South America, in Central America, when you get murdered for America and Canadian profit and transnational corporations, and Elon Musk will coup whoever we want to lithium. No one will hear your scream there. And so that's the terror. That's the whip for them, is that. The whip in America for the migrant is you're going to go back there, or you're going to go concentration camp and get your uterus ripped out. That's why America can never close its concentration camps at the border. America will be a genocidal fucking factory till it dies, because they admit this is why it is, to stop migrants from America's hellscapes that it produces in climate change and disaster-strewn hellscapes, political hellscapes, fascist-run dictatorships, being shot as a Paraguayan indigenous person just trying to ask for your UN human rights, as a coca or a big agricultural farm comes through, pays American paramilitary or trained death squads to murder you, right? That fear that you're going to go back there that's the whip at the migrant, and you can pay them $3 an hour. So again, $3 an hour is just better labor value extraction than minimum wage. To the capitalist, that's all that matters, right? To the worker, right? To the educated worker and the white worker, you can just threaten them with, it's not as good a whip. Going back to a literal hell, it's not as bad as just being homeless. But being homeless and losing your healthcare is not good either. It is terrifying, right? So you just tell all the white and the privileged workers, those with college degrees, you saddle them with student debt, you saddle them with vast quantities of medical debt, you make the housing exorbitantly priced, so it's like $3,000 for the average rent in San Francisco and Chicago and New York City, and then you say, if you fucking do anything that we don't like, you're gonna go be like those homeless bums on the street. Do you wanna be living down there with the overdosing teachers shooting up fucking heroin? No, you don't, right? Being forced to pay for their own substitutes when a teacher in San Francisco needs chemotherapy that they can't afford. Do you want to be like one of them? No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're not going to unionize. You're not going to ask for a raise. You're not going to ask for shit. We will murder you. I mean, we might literally murder. If you're black, we'll definitely murder you. But you're in a rich bourgeois white community that looks down on poverty. What will your white suburbs say if you lose your job? What will your family say? In your white, loveless family that will think of you as a failure if you lose this cushy-ass professional managerial job in this skyscraper. What will they say? What will they say? The threat of losing prestige in the white community, for them, it's not a fate worse than death, but I mean, it is a terrible fate. You will be disowned by your friend network. How are you going to go to all the cool clubs? How are you going to have any social circle to have fucking overpriced beers with and have $200 Iron Chef Morimoto fucking ice cream with your cushy ass salary, if you ever ask, if you have one? How are you supposed to continue to exist in this semblance of a bourgeois world that is dwindling by the second as people lose jobs in office buildings? You're not going to ask for anything. Absolutely not. You're gonna do what the fuck we say. You're gonna shoot that Tomahawk missile into those preschools in the Middle East, or you're gonna be the accountant moving the dollars through offshore bank accounts and then trading them into drachma, into yen, and then back into American currency. And you're gonna launder that blood money as an accountant, as a quantitative easing specialist, as an economist, as a high-frequency trading Goldman Sachs algorithm program. You're gonna do what the fuck we want. You are going to rig the Facebook algorithm to push up far-right news sources and fake news to get Bolsonaro elected. You're gonna install fascism and get hundreds of thousands of people killed with far-right extremists. You're gonna make Nazis win elections around the world for Facebook and the Atlantic Council that we work for. Because if you don't, do you want to be one of those homeless people on the street? Do you want to be one of those sad stories in a Bernie Sanders ad campaign of a dead from fucking your family's cancer, forced to GoFundMe the child's bills, and then GoFundMe runs out, and then your child dies? You don't want to be one of those people, slave. No, you don't. You can, again, that's all trauma. The knowledge of every second of the day that you could be one of those people is abuse. That's child abuse, and that's adult abuse. And when your parents beat you, as many Americans and Adrian Zenz does to his children, as he admits, as Australians and many Canadians do, especially the right wing, but not exclusively, when your parents treat you as a subhuman, they don't physically hit you, but they treat you as admitted by Westerners, with no respect, as unintelligent. They not respecting your intelligence, not respecting your space, not respecting your concerns, and not the fact that you are whole people. When your parents do that to you, that's child abuse, to prepare you for the adult abuse existing in capitalism, feudalism, well, neo-feudalism, illegal, the people that are migrating, they're already deeply abused. But if you're in the Imperial, the metropole, you have to abuse your own family and your own children, because then how else are you going to create little cogs that are used to living in terror and doing whatever daddy says? I mean, the boss, I mean, the pastor, I mean, the mayor, I mean, the police, I mean, the stormtroopers, I mean, the stormtrooper police. Well, anyways, they're all the same. Those are the same, you know. ADAB, all Western daddies are bad. You know, I shouldn't say all the fathers. The fathers try their best, but I mean, the authority figures in your life, while you pretend to not be a bootlicker and you go to a fucking freedom rally, while standing the cops that murdered all the black and brown people. Anyways, I've been saying many words, and I know that these words have gone all over the place, but the important thing is that when you the idea that everybody lives in this trauma and has and will is false. The idea that all nations, indigenous and government, the Hawaiian government, the Vietnamese of the 1800s, the Vietnamese government of today, the Chinese government of today, the Cuban government of today, and all these governments are equal, and they're all just full of corruption, and they're all, no, this is false. I feel like I've elucidated that. This idea that and this is part of the topic. Obviously, was like standing up to your colonizer, to standing up to the imperial abuser, right? Directly, militarily, they are abusing us as we speak in so many different ways with the bombing of our mountain, right? And part of standing up to the abuser is saying to the face of the abuser, you can. This is not right. This is not what humans do. There are other places in the world and other places in the world in time over history where this has not been done. You are not the universal. Parents do not universally need to disrespect and treat children as inhuman. This is not what Hawaiians did. This is not what indigenous people did. This is not what many peoples do. You are not right in your abuse of me, parent, boss, landlord, police, U.S. military occupying X country. You do not have the right to abuse me. And like, I know it's hard to stand up individually in the United States, which is why they want to keep you as a self-interested individual. But, they're going to make it as hard as possible to organize. But that will be a necessary component, which is not attacking those places in the world which are actually doing a much better job of not abusing their people, from country to people, from parent to child, from husband to wife, husband to husband, and wife to wife, from from in the workplace. Again, Huawei is the biggest world's worker cooperative. They're not perfect, but they're much better than anything that any American company of a similar size. Amazon, are you kidding me? It's not even close in the terms of the inequality and the abuse. The head executive, Ren Zhengfei, has less than 1% ownership. 98,000 people at that company have worker ownership. They're not all equal. It could be better, obviously, yes. Is it the same as U.S. Amazon? Is it the same as Walmart? Is it the same as the U.S. Military corporations that are literally murdering people around the world? Is it the same as Amazon that works with ICE? That works with the U.S. military to kill and imprison children at the border and does nothing about it? Is it the same as Elon Musk, who produces less than 1% of all vehicles on the face of the total auto industry? Toyota, but has a valuation of his company that is more than Toyota, Honda, Lexus, BMW, Chrysler, all the other major car companies combined, while also being a union buster, while also being a misogynist red pill. I'm gonna take the red pill when my wife is having a child birth. Descendant of fucking apartheid, racist slavery in Africa, emerald mine. Is Elon Musk equivalent to Ren Zhengfei? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. All methods of organizing workplaces are not equal, and there's even better ones than Huawei. Hui. Fun fact. Again, Hui, the word Hui, as Luna elucidated, in Vietnam, Hui, it's the same. The root word is the same. It means to work together. Like in Hawaii, when you say Hui, come over here, it's like getting the gang together, right? Sometimes it's used as a verb, but Hui together is a word that is often said. We're working together, cooperatively, to build this fish pond, to construct this taro, to plant this kalo that is sustaining our life, to teach these children, right? At a cooperative educational center. The Silver Spook Games, we're gonna Hui together to do C# programming, artificial intelligence, coding, digital art, writing, music, and ultimately, marketing. That's what I'm doing part of the time here at the Silver Spook Hui. We're cooperatively working together without bosses, without abuse, without domination and extraction of the workers. Not perfectly, we could always be better, yes, but we at the Silver Spook Cooperative, you could always work on making it better. But everybody who worked on Neofeud got exactly equal amounts of what they put into the game. So no matter if you were a programmer, writer, musician, artist, voice actor, or QA tester, ask QA people who work for EA how well they're paid. They're often never paid. Volunteer labor, slave labor. Not the same as black slavery, but totally unpaid labor that is weaponized and profited from by EA, Activision, CD Projekt Red, you name it. So we are doing, and so the QA tester got exactly the same as what I got. Doing the writing, the music, the programming, and the art for Neofeud. The voice actors got exactly the same. As a share of the total, the split. How to divide it up. How's Amazon going? 2.5 million for me, Mr. Jeffrey Bezos. 1 for you. 2.5 million for me, 1 for you. I mean, literally. Jeff Bezos made 2.5 million times as much as his Amazon median warehouse fulfillment center, Baby Yoda and WandaVision Funko Pop box mover. Fucking herniating their discs, killing them body, destroying themselves, pissing in bottles, shitting in bags in the Amazon factory. Breaking their body. And Amazon's like, well, if you ever lose your job, how are you going to get help? Oh, look at that. You're gone because you broke your body. Goodbye. That's just that. No workplace is perfect. Again, right? No government is perfect either. But that way of doing business, the American way, is vastly worse. So don't say ABAB either. Well, we have to work for this terrible McDonald's or an Amazon because that's the only way to organize things. No. Hawaiians had huis. The Vietnamese had huis to grow their rice, to harvest their pho, to harvest it, and they currently have electrical grid huis. They have software huis, or cooperatives, or hui. I think it's a slightly different pronunciation, but it's actually the etymology, because Hawaiians descended from Southeast Asian Lapita peoples right on the border of China and Vietnam, who sailed through the Pacific Islands through what is called Micronesia, Polynesia, Melanesia to Hawaii over thousands of years. But that concept has passed down through the ages. of cooperative work. And that's why I say this is indigenous societies that have lived not perfectly, more or better and less. They had with zero conflict, but have been able to live in peace with each other, in mutual respect, in non-abuse with each other, with their children, from adult to child, from a parent to parent, from person to person, from family to family, nation to nation, from person to environment to ecology, right? And China also has Huis. That's what Huawei is actually. That's what it actually is. The colonial residue in Shanghai, where the British and American occupations in Hong Kong, that British colony, that's the colonization, was the British, not the other way around. The Taiwan and America-backed reactionaries and capitalism in the coast of China, where the Western imperial abusive societies landed. That's where some of those problematic areas are. The parts that have least capitalism and inequality are the parts that are more inland. And that's why the West hates all of that area. And it's like CCP is under your bed. CCP is stealing your toothbrush. CCP is going to come invade your country. That's why we have to kill thousands of Asian elders and then blow up the whole country and sanction and push them back into poverty. Because the CCP spend more money on the U.S. military because the CCP. They hate that part. It's not the CPC, but anyway, that did 850 million people's poverty alleviation. And so, but that's not a perfect, because, and a lot of the reason why it has a lot of problems is because of the parts of Hawaii that have problems is because of Western imperial colonization. It's a residue of that colonization. Like, that's why Hawaiian parents, from my parents' generation, experience physical punishment, is similar to why there are $30 million condos in Shanghai, right? Both of these are not good. Both of these are, to a large extent, residue of Western imperial and capitalist culture that was injected, and the Compradors and Gusanos that they bought out and they tried to pull off and break off, particularly on the southeast edge. And then America's wars in Afghanistan trying to break off Xinjiang. It should not be seen as, but America, like in the West, like to pose it as China invading Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Xinjiang. It's not. It's these are all sovereign territory which America and the West have funded, and they have invaded and attempted to break off in order to balkanize the indigenous 56 ethnic regions of China. These are the West is the invader, and then to equate that with what America does. You see, China is exactly the same, because they're doing X to Taiwan, they're doing X to Hong Kong, they're doing X to Xinjiang, and so that's exactly the same. Again, AGAB, right? All governments are bad. All ASAB, all the states are bad. All the countries are bad, and America is just the same. You know, we're all the same. That's why you have to, all you leftists on the internet, and especially all the anarchists, I want you all to push right now. Go on the internet, go on your YouTube, your Twitch, make a very long video on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, anywhere, about how we have to destroy China right now. Okay, you're only doing the empire's bidding for them, right? Now it'd be like going like, oh, well, you know, Hawaiians one time, there was a spanking, and so Hawaiians are just terrible people. So you know what we have to do? We have to round all the Hawaiians up and then make them all American now, because you know we're all the same, and America is totally able to run the world, and we have problems, but you know we're working on our problems. That's what Blinken said. Oh, yes. The difference between China and the United States is we recognize our flaws. Fucking expanding your concentration camps, expanding your wars, expanding your fucking police. Are you fucking kidding me? So when you say this, it's like saying it's the black and black crime defense. Oh well, you see, black people, they're all it's like slaves are genetically black people are genetically inferior and genetically designed to be subservient. That's when you say, oh, the Chinese, it's just, you know, it has to be this way because they're just terrible. You're using, it's actually yellow on yellow crime. You're going, oh, China did this to Taiwan. They're all doing this. They're always doing this. We have to lead them into freedom. It's like the black slave, they just genetically designed to black on black crime, you know? And when they're free, look at them. They're all in poverty. They're all in ghettos. They're all killing each other. They're all like, Trayvon and George and Jameer. They're taking out guns, blowing each other away. That's why America has to clean them up with its police forces. It's black on black crime, right? That's when you say that it's the nation to nation, it's the internal country oppression of black on black crime. When you say it's China hurting Xinjiang, you all manufactured all of this fucking shit. United States literally manufactures the poverty of the people of color. You manufacture the poverty of Native Hawaiians, and then you blame Hawaiian politicians have literally, white politicians illegally occupying Hawaii have run on, I don't want any more of my tax-paying dollars to go to pay for these Hawaiian crack babies. They've literally run and won on that in white areas in Hawaii. That's literally the same thing you're campaigning on. It's racism and colonialism and war, which are all intertwined. And so standing up to the imperial abuser is saying, absolutely not. Fuck you and your narrative. I don't care how ubiquitous your narrative is. I don't care how. That's what I'm saying right now, because I know that I'm not. There's not everybody is saying this, but many of the younger generation are, but not everyone. And there's still too much of this Western imperial media going around spreading lies about all these places. You are a liar, A. B, you are an abuser, C, and your gaslighting is making me trying to blame myself for my situation as a poor Native Hawaiian. That's what they said. Oh, Silver Spook, if you're homeless, that's your fault. Your fault. And also the Hawaiians, the Pacific Islanders, you just, culturally, before it was you're genetically deficient, you're an N-word. You're lesser race. You're under social Darwinism, you're unfit to exist. Again, this is accredited science through Europe and America. The West likes to pretend like it didn't worship eugenics. America doesn't care about science. The West doesn't care about science. If it can hire a fucking crackerjack box Nazi to do science to run its agenda, all it cares about is crushing, colonizing, and extracting wealth and dominating. That's all it cares. It doesn't care about fucking facts, logic, science, rationality, the scientific method, peer review. It doesn't care a fuck about that. If it did, it wouldn't have fucking Adrian Zenz, the #1 funded political. I'm gonna say this again and again because you keep citing him in your Western media. The West does not care about science. If it did, it wouldn't have fucking phrenologists running the entire sociology, anthropology, and biology departments. So this is accepted science. They like to talk, that was just that was one bad app. No. That was your whole fucking academic system. That was the university system. Sociology, statistics in the West is Adrian Zenz is your sociology. The continued justification of your war crimes. That is your so-called political science. So they teach you in the most expensive universities in the United States. Either you A, have to admit you don't have any education in your universities. B, everybody who is continuing to push Zenz and all of these lies throughout all of these institutions, all your NGOs, all your nonprofits, all of your political and media establishments are just outright evil and liars. They're liars and evil, academics and university graduates. Or C, they're just completely all clueless idiots. And you have no education system. So, it's like at least one and possibly multiple of these things have to be true. And so anyway, it's not 132. I got to get off shortly. But this is standing up to the abuser means calling out all of their abusive bullshit, calling out their gaslighting, calling out their lies, revealing them for who they are. And declaring that humanity, people, the Aina, the Kanaka Maoli, the peoples of all of our lands, we have not been abusers. On the whole, we have not treated people and children. We have not abused children. We have not abused our people because of different gender, because of same-sex relationships, which we didn't. Mahu is a very important third gender in Hawaiian culture. They are important defenders on the forefront of decolonization historically and to this day with Kumuhina, particularly in Hawaii. Leading on Mauna Kea, the biggest police and military action against Native Hawaiians, 8,000 plus arrests, literal military bombings on our sacred mountain. The bombings are abuse. That is not how all people treat each other. You are abusing us, Empire. You are abusing us. Culture that teaches physical, mental, emotional abuse and domination. That is not how Hawaiians live. That is not how Vietnamese live. That is not how indigenous people have lived across Turtle Island. That is not how many African peoples lived until you showed up. We didn't scalp each other, or there was no scalping until Western settler murderous genocidal colonizers came in and started ripping off the scalps of Algonquin, Sioux, and Seminole people and selling them for $25 a pop. You are the abuser. That was not our culture. That is your settler European culture. You have no legitimacy. We don't tell us we don't have legitimacy because, oh, we're poor, we can't follow X and Y and Z, we don't have enough education. You create the conditions for our impoverishment, for our diseducation, by intentionally hiring the worst teachers for our schools, by ripping parents from children and throwing them into abusive indigenous people from Hawaiians from their caring parents and putting them with white step parents to annihilate our people and our culture. Kids that are raised, abused by their parents, sexually, physically, mentally, often killed. Ask Law Sue about that in so-called Canada. That's what Neofeud is about. And also to erase whatever was Hawaiian about them, whatever was indigenous about them. That is not what all people. We did not do that to each other. The Chinese did not take the children of Uyghurs, put them. This is shown by all of the signs and all of the language, all of the Uyghur language that continues to exist in this region. They do not rip their children away, put them in ethnic majority, and force the culture out of them, beat, abuse, and push them into poverty. The Uyghurs have been lifted out of poverty. Their wages have gone up faster than even the average wages of China for over decades. They have quadrupled wages over the course of a few decades. On average, 850 million people lifted out of poverty. They speak their language. There are 2.5 times as many mosques as there were a couple decades ago. There are 4 times as many Uyghur ethnic minorities because of the not being required to do the one-child policy. That is not the same as what you have done to Native Hawaiians, to the Sioux people, which is what? Push into poverty. From one of the most prosperous, technologically advanced, educated people, one of the extremely the most diseducated as a demographic, most homeless, most shortest lifespan. That is not all countries are bad in terms of their dealing with ethnic minorities. The United States, you are an abuser of your ethnic minorities, absolutely, undeniably. Hawaiians are just one in a litany of these. And what Vietnam has done, even to it has different ethnic minorities there as well. And again, I'm not saying that there is zero problems. I would never say that ever. That would not be dialectical. That would not be Hawaiian, and that would be because that would be truthful. That would be a Western thing to say, which is what America does say. We're the best country in the world, and we've done nothing wrong. They love saying that shit. I would not say that, but at the same time, even the Muslim minority in Vietnam, they are not pushed into ghettos. They are not impoverished. They are not fucking shot up and murdered routinely like at the FedEx, like during the run-up to the Iraq War, when anti-Muslim and calling people towel head and san N-word and all these slurs were normalized, and all of these anti-Muslim attacks, they historically, and anti-Muslim racism, it's been here. Trump banned immigration from them from 7 countries. This is not the way that the Vietnamese treat their Muslim minorities. It's not the way that China treats their Muslim minorities. This is not the way that the Hawaiians of the 1800s treated the African minorities, the black slaves that you created and then came here and then were free. No, we treated them as whole citizens. We educated the black citizens of Hawaii, the Asian citizens of Hawaii from China and from other places, the same as we educated anyone else. We provided opportunities and healthcare the same, and citizenship the same as anyone else. When you had literal slaves, and you still have literal black slaves, when you had the Chinese Exclusion Act, you are the abuser. Do not throw all nations, all countries, and all governments under the abuse. Oh, they're all bad. They're all gonna abuse their ethnic minorities. So that's why it works on Americans. You know why? Because that's the projection. As somebody said to I think a U.S. war criminal at a recent summit, I think Russia-U.S. summit, the United States. What we do when we speak of other people, we think that we are actually criticizing others, but when we criticize others, often what we're doing, as children will say, whatever you say I am, that's what you are. There's a saying in Russia that it goes that way, but this is very much what it is. When America accuses other places of doing things, what it is doing, it is projecting its own guilt that it is in constant denial of, right? It knows somewhere that it is the planet's biggest evil, that it is a genocide and slavery and death cult factory, that it is committing all the climate ecocide, the majority of it, with 70% emissions from its top 100 corporations headquartered in Wall Street. The U.S. military-industrial complex, number one emitter of carbon. The U.S. knows what somewhere it knows. It's in constant denial and pretends like it's some kind of beacon of human rights and freedom and democracy. But when you accuse others of something, you're actually projecting what you are doing on them. And for Americans, it works. That's why you can just say they're picking cotton, and America immediately jumps to only slaves pick cotton. And we had slaves. We still have slaves in agricultural work to this day, and all of that's forced labor. But it triggers a key secret, the gaslighting in your brain, because you have to succeed in America, you have to hide all your criminality and all your abuse and pretend to be a nice guy, because it triggers in the mind all of that guilt, and it goes, that's what everybody does. If anybody's picking cotton, if anybody's doing agricultural work, it must be abusive, because that's what we do. We are $3 an hour. I'm gonna call ICE tomato pickers essential workers. We had black slaves treated as subhuman, whipped in the back, forced to work as subhumans picking cotton. The Chinese must be just like us. Because why? Because what we're doing, what you're doing, is you're projecting your experiences of governments. You're projecting your racism as a society. All societies must be racist and so abusive, because have you been to all societies? Have you lived as a minority in all societies? No, you haven't. You're just projecting your own guilt. You're projecting your imperialism. You're projecting your Western, Imperial, European, and American racism, settler colonialism. You're projecting your own guilt and your war crimes, your human rights violations onto other people's. And the Western media for all 330 million of you, and it can weaponize this so easily. It goes like, how you're abusing the workplace? You know how they're trying to pay you as little as possible? Look at these people. They're probably paid as little as possible. Look at that Mexican picking that cotton. Look at that Mexican working for $3 in that restaurant serving you tacos. Look at that Chinese person slaving away making your noodles for terrible, while you call it cheap food, and you pay your white chef $50, $60, $100 an hour to cook fucking French food. Chinese food is just as difficult to cook as French food. The Americans is just racist against Chinese and their food. You're just a xenophobic ass racist country. And so because these poor restaurant workers, these poor agricultural workers, these poor, electronic workers in our slave factories, in the prisons, all these black firefighters, all of these workers that do essential work are treated terribly. Chinese must be doing that, but probably worse, because they're Asian. And that means they're bad, because we're fucking racist Americans, and we think that all Asian people are fucking alien civilization evildoers. Because of CCP propaganda that I've been watching for the last 24 hours straight, for 24/7, 365. And now we're fucking murdering the workers at massage parlors for being Asian. And then saying, a white guy had a bad day. You're projecting what you think they're doing. You don't know. You do not know. You haven't lived there. You don't know shit. If you're looking at Western media, you know negative information. You know disinformation. You know even less than if you didn't watch any media. If you go to American school, you can actually come out stupider than when you went in. If you don't go into American school, at least you don't learn that Thomas Jefferson was a great light on beacon of a beacon of human excellence, and wrote the amazing founding worshipped document of the entire Western world, the Declaration. The Constitution, and you learn that he was such an amazing guy, and you're already being disinformed, because this guy was a fucking 260 slave-owning child rapist, and he called a black child slave an animal while he had sex with her, which is 7 different levels of disgusting. You don't learn that. You are already when you're told that America is the beacon of light, of freedom and democracy, you're being diseducated. You're being brain poisoned. So if you actually never went to American school, public, private, non-profit, charter, college, post-college, Ivy League, or state university or otherwise, if you never went to America, you might actually come out smarter than if you went in. In fact, I would wager in sociology, politics, science, political science, biology, international law, definitely, history, and economics, you definitely come out totally diseducated. You know how I know this? Because I went to a $20,000 a year private school in your system, and not even the public school, and it was abysmal. I had to be educated by other colonized people. specifically Maori. I had the chance opportunity to discover some actually educated people, indigenous Maori who escaped their New Zealand colonizers. And they said, Hawaiian, did you know that you were colonized? And I was like, oh, what is colonialism? It's colony. Is that like colonial marines, like in Aliens? I had no idea what that word meant. You know why? Because we don't learn shit about what that really means. You know, colonial. I mean, we didn't learn. I went to $20,000 a year private school, Harvard feeder, Ivy League, Princeton, Yale fucking feeder school. They don't teach you shit. What does that mean? Maori professor from Aotearoa, from colonized Aotearoa. And then I learned. That's how I wouldn't. A lot of the stuff that I learned, wouldn't know much of anything if it wasn't for some of those professors. I would have just gone about my life as a Native Hawaiian, assimilated. Again, that's genocide. That's what all the Uyghurs are being forced to learn Han, everything, and they can't learn their language. They're forced to love China. But what the fuck do you think Hawaiians are forced to do in your shithole country? Assimilate into a fake, completely lie-filled version of history where America is the greatest thing that ever lived and Hawaiians were backward. It's like it's incomparable. I mean, whenever I think about, that's why I love bringing up the Uyghurs, because I'm like, it's like, what you've done to Native Hawaiians is just unspeakably greater than whatever. Even if what you're claiming is what they're doing, what you've already done to us and continue to do, bombing fucking 30 miles from here, illegitimately on our land, denationalizing us. This is our inside of Xinjiang, whatever the Chinese are doing. What Americans, as they bomb Uyghurs, which they're doing in 2018, and they've been doing this for a long time, fomenting history. Americans have literally like fucking murdered thousands of them. So you talk about a genocide, just like they do to the Iraqis. But in terms of what the Chinese are doing, whatever they're doing, I can't imagine it being, more of a genocide than what you've already fucking done to us. The only reason why I'm really speaking to you or any of this stuff is not because America taught me shit. It's because I found out about what America did to me. The way America assimilated me into its ethnic majority culture by a slightly decolonized or somewhat decolonized ethnic minority in Aotearoa. I wouldn't be talking about any of this. No thanks to your genocidal government. I mean, if that's genocide, this is what you're doing. That's your fucking government. Anyways, so it is the responsibility of the abused, whether that's the colonized under the colonizer, whether that's the parent, the child under the parent. Actually, if you're a child, you shouldn't. This is not for kids. Obviously, that would be a violation. We can't. But if you're a parent, if there are children, the children do not deserve to be abused by their parents. Treating children with disrespect as not full human beings, not caring for their concerns, that is abuse. That's abuse. That's not what we do. That's what America needs you to do to your children and everyone else's children around you, so that they're prepared to be abused by their bosses and their landlords and their political and the elite, their government and their business abuse. And then perpetuate that to your children's children and your children's children's children. You live in a perpetual trauma that you can never get therapy for. And so it is to break the cycle of the abuse, right? We have to call this out. We have to speak out about it. We have to organize collectively across the world for the economic abuse, for the political abuse, from the colonizer to the colonized abuse, the parent to child abuse, the spouse to spouse abuse, especially white husband to wife abuse, especially that one. And America's doubling down on, I just want to go make America great again, make America Stepford wives and abusive husbands again. That's about make Canada right-wing women in the kitchen, conservative neocon Christianity again. It's a lot of that. You got what's that? Xander Hall talking to Lauren Southern. Let's make America. Let's make all of our places racist, conservative. I mean, conservative is often cloaked for abusive far-right Christianity. And then you go to Vietnam and you try to start one of these far-right Christian cults to try to overthrow the fucking government, and they get called, there's no religious freedom.
There's no religious freedom. Every time somebody tries to go assassinate Castro, it's like, oh my God, you killed a journalist, or you imprisoned a journalist. That was a journalist with tomahawk pistol, a journalist with like silenced PP7 characteristics. It's a journalist with a grenade. Hey, I'm just a human rights activist. I'm throwing the grenade into Castro's hull. Like, oh my God, Cuba, stop it. No, it's fucking America trying to get rid of, somebody. Actually, America actually threatened Australia recently. Daniel Dumbro had a very important video. I'm not gonna show it here because we can't do that, but an American Biden, I was a Biden administration official, who came into Australia and was giving a talk to the Australian, I think it was business or political elite, and it was basically, it was some kind of conference, and the Biden administration said, you're gonna have to choose, Australia, between us and China. If you trade to a large extent, we are rivals. China is our enemy now, and if you trade to a large extent with China, and you don't trade enough with us, or if you don't do what we want, he just said this like on camera, in public, to Australian politicians and the business community. He said, if you don't do what America wants, you will become America's enemy. And you don't want to be America's enemy. And everybody's laughing kind of like nervously, like, yeah. And he's like, you don't want to become America's enemy. Like one of the Biden administration, because if you become America's enemy, you do not know how nasty, how bad it can get for you. It's like The Confessions of an Economic Hitman is a very good book about what happened, how America did the same thing of terror. Again, it's like, parent to child terror, right? The terror of dying from no health care, being out on the street if you ever try to unionize or speak up against your boss, right? That terror, just the terror of getting whipped as a black slave, the terror of being as a migrant from the global south, being shoved back into your hellscape of war and famine and climate disaster, right? The terror in a African country of, if you don't pay back every cent of this WTO loan, they're gonna come in and bomb your entire country into smithereens and take everything. You better pay back this exorbitant loan. You live in constant terror of neo-colonial weapons of mass financial destruction, and the same terror is from even America to its allies in Australia, even another white southern country. They're like, if you don't do what we want, Australia, look. And they said, if you trade too much with China, if you do too much, and because China is a major trading partner for Australia. If you don't do more trade with us and you do too much with them, we will see you as an enemy, because China is our enemy. And if you become an enemy, nasty things will happen to you. You don't have no idea how nasty we can become. Just look at what happened to Castro. He literally said that. Look what happened to Allende. And he told that to the Australians. Look at what we did. Look at what we can do. Do not fuck with us. He didn't say the last one, don't fuck with us. But he did literally say that. Daniel Dumbro's one of the most recent Daniel Dumbro video. He has second to the most recent. The U.S. literally is telling the Australians in public, you will be with us or against us, and if you're against us, we will destroy you. So I get Australians. They're like they don't want to stand up to daddy, abusive daddy. And so they're going to keep putting out war propaganda, and they're going to go, okay, America, we'll make up lies, and we'll take more pictures of preschools and brand new high-speed rail and call that's a train to the concentration camp. And this preschool is actually that's actually the prison where they're doing forced cotton labor. And this is a picture of a Chinese Uyghur sad person, but it's actually a happy Chinese a Han person picking cotton and smiling actually, but we're gonna hide that fact. Okay, America, we'll do your bidding and start fucking war with China, destroy the Belt and Road Initiative to stop the Global South from liberating all of our indigenous and Global South peoples under the chains of colonialism, which is that's really what it's about. It's about stopping Russia and China from coming closer together with Iran and with Africa, reconstructing the Silk Road to trade in mutual or at more mutual respect and more mutual beneficial win-win trade, as the president of 1.4 billion person country reiterates, and that's what they actually do. Unlike America, sometimes America also projecting is the politicians, everything they say is lies and they just fuck everyone over. But I know it's weird to imagine that there's like heads of state that like actually say a thing, or like political officials that might say a thing and then they do the thing. I know that it never happens. Like Biden, I don't have to say how many times Biden has lied to you, but that is a thing that they do. They actually follow through on their word, because that's why they have 93.5% approval rating by Western studies, because they follow fucking through, because they're a legitimate government, unlike the U.S. government, unlike the Canadian and the British government.
which have terrible approval ratings and abuse their own people. So that's what it's about. It's about stopping the Belt and Road Initiative, which is a major part of liberating the entire Asian and African continent, ultimately, from much of the America's encircling the sea routes out of China, the straits near Singapore. In any kind of economic or cold or warm war, America could seal off the strait and cut off and basically cripple China's economy. And the strategy is to try to the Belt and Road is about trying to get a way around that and to continue providing multi-billion-dollar forgivable loans to Africa and to global South countries, including Cuba, including Venezuela, either just outright forgiving the loans or deferring payment for long periods of time. Again, mutual respect. That's an indigenous way of being, as opposed to an imperial, which is extractive, which is dominating, which is controlling, which is abusive. The way that China is actually dealing by the numbers, not by your, again, Americans don't have any universities apparently, because even university statistics and economics graduates can't do basic math and calculate what is actually happening in these places. Now, it's not always 100% good, and there are questionable things that happen, but overall, if you look at all of the loans that have been made, you look at the benefits to the places where they're working in Africa, in the global South. I would add in Hawaii. We actually had 1.6 billion masks delivered straight from China to Hawaii, which benefited us a lot because we had all the PPE and the masks that we needed at the beginning of the pandemic. So, if you look at what they're actually doing by the numbers, relative to the United States and the European Union in particular, by the numbers, how many people have come out of poverty as China has been working more there? Hundreds of millions. How many people got electricity in Africa in a collaboration between an African and a Chinese individual, Akon and the Chinese? 400 million. Solar power based electricity for 400 million, more than an entire America in Africa, right? By the numbers, when is the last time America gave anybody in Africa anything other than a token school for a fucking NGO? For a fucking WASP billionaire's child to go take pictures and pretend to be doing good things for the world, and then demolish the entire rest of the country and stole all of its wealth. It could be better, but America wouldn't be trying to stop China if China wasn't actually going to destroy the capacity for international planet-wide abuse, or be a large and important part of that. America wouldn't be spending $500 million to provide to independent journalists astroturfing fake YouTube channels, fake blue check marks to trick millennial and Gen Z, because boomers can be easily gaslit and moved like little puppets on the strings of Fox, MSNBC, and fucking Facebook all day long. But for the younger generations, it's a little harder. So they're putting $500 million straight into trying to counter the Belt and Road Initiative, not to offer. Okay, you don't like what China is doing? How about you offer a better opportunity to empower African countries and lift them out of poverty than what China's offering? No, that's not what they're doing. What are they doing? No, because you know why? Because the West can't. Because they won't. Because that's not who they are. They're fucking evil, colonizing, imperial-ass bastards. AWAB, all Westerners are bastards. So, I'm sorry, but that's I'm not just saying that as propaganda. I'm just saying that because that's statistically what's happened. If you go by the fucking numbers. But nobody has an education in the West, so they can't run numbers. They just retweet Adrian Zenz all day. Okay, so I guess I'm just gonna have a bunch of angry comments. That's whatever. Good luck dying in the imperial metropole of the United States when China defeats you. Anyway, so like the Belt and Road Initiative, right? The only thing stopping that is nuclear war ultimately, because they're not offering. All they're offering is to try to stop the liberation through economic development, right? To do what Hawaii did for itself, to do what Vietnam did, what China did, and expand that to Africa and to the rest of Asia, and then reconnect the Silk Road, which was what it was. It was about, what are these freaking bonkers, homicidal, feudal barbarians in Europe doing? We don't want to trade with these people. These people are freaking off their shit. We got the Mongolians coming down, and we have to build. That's a little dangerous, but these Europeans. Okay, well, Asia, the Silk Road, Xinjiang, okay, Chinese, the peoples in the continent of Asia, you coming down through Iran, what was, previous peoples there, but, Africa, through India, I don't know about these Europeans, though. We can't trade with these people. These people they don't wash their ass. What's wrong with these people? Also, like, they just, like, everyone is living these nasty, brutish, short lives, and then they're blaming that on humanity. It's just a weird thing to do. Like, we're not living nasty, brutish, short lives. We have 56 different ethnic regions living in perpetuity for fucking thousands of years, with not zero conflict, but like thousands of times less total war if you measure the amount of war, death, destruction by the life expectancy. Everybody dying from poverty, plagues, dying for other lords and kings' wars, and then dying in colonialism. I mean, these people are off. These are unhinged people in this Europe place. You gotta watch out for those people. Anyway, so the Silk Road is about reestablishing what the Europeans disrupted through the history of the colonial era. It was really about, it's an aberration. The West is a aberration. It's like a cancer in the human species that was doing okay, and then it got this plague. It got this little giant tumor called Europe. America is just a tumor. You live in 99% cancer. It's called capitalism and racism and patriarchy and sexism. I'm so sorry. But the chemo is the Silk Road is the IV line that will be giving the chemo to this. It's called redevelopment and mutual respect and beneficence for all people, despite skin color, despite country, despite race, in win-win relationships. In a global federation of huis, as we would say in Hawaii and in Vietnam and in China. Right? A federation of cooperative, in increasingly better relationships as imperialism's reach decreases, as the West power decreases. Of course, the dangerous thing is if the United States says, you know what, we're gonna blow this whole world up. We're just gonna start wars everywhere. We're just gonna fucking shoot hypersonic missiles into Chinese carriers and ships. We're just gonna fucking shoot nukes. We're just gonna do what the Navy commanders have said that they want to do, which is start very likely nuclear war with Russia and China. We're just gonna fuck this planet. If we can't win, we're gonna burn this whole fucking planet to a crisp. Like the pigeon playing chess with Putin. If I'm not with, it's like a sociopathic pigeon. If I don't win, fuck this chess match. I'm gonna fucking flip this whole table over, and then I'm gonna shit all over this goddamn table. And when I shit, I mean drop nuclear warheads, tomahawk missiles, and fucking ion cannons, and global poverty, fascism, and nuclear winter. I'm just gonna shit all over this fucking planet. So barring that, and that's why if you are in the West, your number one job, you're not the protagonist. You're not gonna save anything. If you're in America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Europe, you've proven that you're not gonna do shit. But what you can do is not participate in the warmongering and spreading the lies that will be the basis for a warm, hot war and the spreading of racism. As I said, I've been saying this many weeks, but I reiterate this because this is what is vital to say now to prevent catastrophic cold and hot war on top of stopping colonialism. But the most dangerous of all is the warmer hot war that the United States wants to wage by its own admissions of its own, not every single one of its generals and its politicians. As Colonel Wilkerson, a Bush administration official, admitted, much of the United States political elite they're not rational, they're not moral, many of them are unhinged. They are not making rational decisions. If they did, they wouldn't be making the decision to shoot themselves in the foot and push the United States being surpassed by China 7 years up. These are not rational human beings. These are not moral human beings. So this is extremely dangerous. Even more, it's just about the likelihood that something could happen. This is even more why we have to counter these xenophobic narratives. We have to counter these colonial lies with history, with actual history. We have to counter of not just of Hawaii, but Hawaii of all places. So I'm focusing extra on China because that's really where it's really coming. And China, Russia, Iran, and that Silk Road. That's the Xinjiang region. The Belt and Road runs straight through that region. That's why they're there. They're not there for Uyghurs. They're there to disrupt the rise of an actual socialist, actual indigenous power. It's called China. Again, indigeneity is not dancing around with a fucking feather headdress in a version of fake indigeneity that Americans constructed to put in wax museums. That's not indigeneity. The indigenous people of the Sioux, I have friends that are Cree. They have electric moccasins. They are making Oculus Rift-based VR video games from an indigenous perspective against colonialism. That does not negate, am I not a native Hawaiian because I program artificial intelligence, make cyberpunk, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist cyberpunk games for a living. Some people tell me actually this, mostly white people. Well, Hawaiian, that's not really Hawaiian. I want to see a Hawaiian, dancing a hula. I want to see you in the mud hut. I want to see you like in the mud. I want to see you paddling, maybe with some wearing some grass. That's the colonizer gatekeeping of our Hawaiians. That's part of the colonial prison. You know? The Chinese are indigenous people. I'm going to say that again. And I'm going to say the Vietnamese are indigenous people. The African peoples, many of them, I don't have all the history for all of them, but I mean, indigenous peoples. And even if they aren't, they can and they try to, many of them, live in indigeneity. Now, there are aspects of them that have become colonial, but most of them are the ones that are bought out by Western fucking WTO banks and the United States throwing a bag of money and saying, hey, look the other way while we strip all of your coltan and copper and other resources. There are those people, but the culture by and large, I feel, in a lot of places that have not been fully and deeply, heavily colonized, still have indigeneity to them. They are indigenous futures. China is an indigenous future. Vietnam is an indigenous future. It's a living indigenous future. It's what Hawaii was in the 1800s, and then America annihilated it. And then pretended like Hawaiians were all living in grass shacks, because that would disrupt the abuser in chief's narrative that Hawaiians were backward and no brown person. It disrupts that narrative of the colonial era, of the eugenics narrative, of the social Darwinian narrative, right? Which is the entire West, Europe, Canada, settler colonies, and Europe's narrative. The Hawaiian sovereign, technologically advanced republic disrupts the narrative that brown and black peoples are they're not capable. They are genetically deficient. They're not capable of being as intelligent, as organized, inventing these technologies. And that is why it is our burden to keep them happily working in our cotton picking slave plantations. Keep them happily under the oversight of the white man, because they are incapable of producing any of these things themselves, right? And Hawaii had to be destroyed from the perspective of America and Europe. Europeans participated in the stealing and the illegal annexation of Hawaii. Multiple, actually, war crimes, multiple illegal annexations in the 1890s. They participated because they knew for their European colonial project of Africa, they are all the same racists as the United States. They pretend like they're all better. They're not. They needed to destroy the example of a living indigenous future, which is what Hawaii is. And again, so to resist the abuse of the colonizer, to resist the abuse of the abuser and the abuser's culture that they have installed into you, even into black communities and brown communities, Asian communities as well, is to resist interpersonally, parent to child, husband to wife, wife to wife, husband to husband, workplace, employee to boss, person to police officer, government person to illegitimate government. Obviously, the United States they have no legitimacy. That's one that definitely is. This is to resist all of the abuse from all the abusers. And then, if we do this enough, and we can prevent this catastrophic war and the catastrophic sanctions and and media and hybrid war from stopping the linking of all of our indigenous peoples in mutual beneficent trade and mutual beneficent assistance, we will live in an indigenous prosperous future for, I believe, we could have been in space already if it wasn't for Elon Musk's apartheid South African slave beneficiaries with emerald mines and abusive capitalism breaking all of his unions, disrupting the capacity for actual astronomers and engineers to do their job, because he needs to get a fucking show for his little TED Talk, or he wants to send his stupid little car into space, or he wants to build a vehicle with no brakes that's supposed to be with tiny little windows, and it looks like a Laura Croft 1990s boobies, because he's weirdly just a weird geek for 90s video games. I understand. I love Deus Ex as well, but one individual running for his own self-aggrandizement terribly these companies, while being an idiot, saying that there would be 0 COVID-19 cases in the United States in April 2020, pretending to be some kind of techno genius, techno king, super brain. if the indigenous future were here, we would already be in space. If Hawaiians were allowed to just persist, we would have already been with the lani, the va'a of the lani, the canoes of space, of the sky, and then we would have the va'a of space. We would already have space canoes, and we would be calling them that because Hawaiians would be inventing it. Because Hawaiians invented submarines when Jules Verne, when the Westerners were only writing science fiction about subaquatic vehicles. We would have been there if it wasn't for the Western Empire crushing us, as opposed to America gifting us these technologies. So again, it is imperative for the survival of the human race. If you want space travel, the indigenous planetary future, and the ending of the imperial abuser hell, is imperative for every reason. For our own survival as a species, for all species survival, the capacity of Gaia, the capacity of the Aina for Hawaiians, the capacity of the Earth to support life whatsoever. It is imperative that we stop all of this. Not and admit that this is what it is. Not to say, oh, well, the Europeans, we are very smart and educated and we can lead with some carbon tax initiative. No, you need to stop colonizing Africa. You need to give up. They never will. This is why it will be forced from the hands of these sock-dem imperial countries. It will be forced from the hands of the United States. They will never give it up. But what you can do is not participate in your countries. You can accelerate the downfall of your empire. That's what you can do. You can support the people with legitimate claims. As when the future arrives, when there is no longer a United States, because it's never been legitimate, and Canada as well. And I'm never doing anything illegal. I'm just saying, events of history will work themselves out, and you can support the colonized people, the Black Lives Matter, the indigenous peoples, the land back movements, because there is no legitimate claim to United. You want to support the claims of ethnic minorities, right? Forget about Xinjiang and Taiwan and Hong Kong. Support the claims of the Sioux to the illegitimate territory of the United States. That will, this support. Obviously the Native Hawaiians, right? The Puerto Ricans. That's what you can do if you're a Westerner in a white country. You can educate yourself about all of these topics and destroy whiteness itself, which is central to a lot of these ideas. Colonialism and interpersonal racism and capitalism in the racialized capitalist United States. And I know that if we do accomplish this, that we will live in a more prosperous future. That we will live in a place that is far better than even any Hawaiian, Vietnamese, or Chinese indigenous or First Nations of Turtle Island indigenous person can imagine. And it definitely will be much better than 100 million food insecure Americans, tens of millions threatened with homelessness, with back rent, and countless people unable to afford not only the basic housing but the basic health care. I know that this will be America will you will be much. This is the thing. It will be much better for you under the Federation of Indigenous Future Six Nations people that used to be New England. The Federation of the high-speed rail producing and advanced soft power producing Sioux, not just Sioux, a lost Sioux streamer, that's great, but actual Sioux films like My Homeland, My Country, which is a story of poverty alleviation. There will be great Sioux and Hawaiian films and games that will be not about billionaire philanthropist, arms dealer, playboy, and Captain Star Spangled Underpants saving the world by funding the military. No. There will be great movies that are about indigenous ways of being, that don't sponsor death cults and war profiteering. And there will be better movies, there will be more fun games, there won't be AAA capitalist fucking online casinos masquerading as video games. Things will be much better for everyone of whatever skin color, from whatever nation. You won't live in an abusive relationship with your boss. You won't have a boss. Because why? Because it'll be a hui. You won't live in terror of the police because you will have restorative justice like the Hawaiians had. You won't live in terror of all these things because we provide to all, no matter skin color. We here at the Service Spook Cooperative, we provided free of charge housing to homeless college professors because they needed housing. And that's what Hawaiians and indigenous people do. That's what the Vietnamese do. That's what the Chinese have done. They give away brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses to people who have $0 living in rural, extreme poverty villages and mountainous regions. That's what indigenous people do. Right? You will live in a better future if you allow what do you really love about your empire? What do you like Captain America? You thought he'd throw shield good at Thanos? Was that really fun? I mean, you can still watch movies where dudes in blue and red and white spandex punch each other in the face with, very, very high production value fighting if you really want to do that. I mean, that can happen too. Probably won't be Captain Star Spangled Underpants because that's military propaganda to airbrush the United States image across the planet where these movies are distributed to make it look like America's saving the world from terrorism and death and war and violence, but it's creating it all. So we're not going to have Captain Star, but we'll have Captain Hawaii, We'll have Ali'i Hawaii. We'll have Uncle Ho movies. We'll have, the Captain Sue. We'll have other movies to watch. Probably less military-focused movies, though, because why do we have to focus so much on fucking blowing everybody away in every AAA game, in every giant movie that makes more than $1 billion? Why is all this violence so necessary? I like playing Doom as much as the next person, but I'm also a fucking half stormtrooper that was trained in a $20,000 a year Harvard feeder school, which is a fucking Emperor Palpatine training facility. So, the children will have less violence indoctrinated into their minds and bodies through all the Western media that they're watching. And they'll have more centering actual... You want to do socialism, you need socialist people. And people who have imbibed 35 years of... Instead of 35 years of violence, abusive relationships, wealth worship of the Kardashians and billionaires and Kanye and Donald Trump and all of these reality TV shows and all of America's exclusive lying about its own impoverishment of its people and worship of its military and worship of its violence doers and worship of the police. Like every 50% of all police TV shows are NYPD, LAPD blue. There will be better shows that don't worship cops and the abusers that kill and imprison and catch all the slaves. There will be better shows that are about indigenous people doing restorative justice, doing ho'oponopono, and the shows will center that instead of centering cops chasing down bad black people in fucking hoodies. Justifying, there will be more entertaining movies and it won't be so violent. And to you, it'll be like, but I miss all the people blowing away people and killing. I like people shooting each other all the time. But, you can go to the Stormtrooper retirement home and your children will be raised in a functioning society as actual socialist human beings. Unlike, a lot of people that can never be one. Because you've been brain damaged, you've been brain poisoned for your whole life. And psyche poisoned, you've been spirit poisoned by these movies and these games and these entertainment and this history for your whole life. So your nostalgia is literally being a simulated digital Stormtrooper. I know mine is. So, and that's something we have to admit. And so this will be a much better future for all of us. There'll be better. There will be better. The children will have better stories. And because they have better stories that will construct the narratives that build nations and build peoples and build societies, they will be better human beings than we could ever be. Anyways, I should end. It is now 2:16. How's it going, Mass Casualty? Anyways, Neofeud is a cyberpunk adventure game that is about everything that I've just spoken about. It is a game that I'm going to show this quick trailer of. It supports everything we do at the Silver Spook Hui. If you have come from the Luna Oya stream, thanks, mahalo, aloha, eko mamai. That means please come in. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching the Luna stream if you did. Very important stream. But if you didn't know, I am Silver Spook. I'm a native Hawaiian activist, defender of our sacred mountain, Mauna Kea. Living here in the ongoing illegal occupation of the United States Empire and ongoing bombing of our mountain, which continues as we speak, usually at night. They're ramping up the military actions on less than 30 miles from where I'm streaming. So it's very personal in that sense, but on many levels. But my game Neofeud is about being a colonized, internally colonized native Hawaiian, growing up in very poor areas of Hawaii as a social worker and STEM teacher in a very beautiful place, but where many people live 20 to a house live in food deserts eating spam and ramen for dinner because they don't have access and money to afford anything else. And where my job was to keep kids off of drugs and out of gangs, and on paths to better opportunities as a social worker and a STEM teacher. Neofeud centers around the life of a social worker. So again, and part of that was trying to reconstruct the narrative, like I just said, right? As the top 2 grossing with Chinese movies. One is a historical movie, and last year of 2020. Another was a movie about poverty alleviation. It's a movie about social work. Again, this is like Hollywood blockbuster. This is like Jerry Bruckheimer and Marvel and Disney coming together to make a movie. This is huge, the biggest movie, multi-$100 billion gross in the middle of the pandemic. China has surpassed America in terms of the media already by far. And it's about social work. It's a comedy, but it's about helping people alleviate their poverty, going to these rural areas and helping them with their housing, getting them water, getting them clean water and good food, helping them learn how to participate in civilization, more modern society, so that they can increase their wealth and increase their livelihood and increase their quality of life. That was my job as a social worker, right? That's why I really, I identify so much with like a lot of what China does, because that was my job, was to go to impoverished areas, disproportionately Native Hawaiians, disproportionately Black and brown areas, and have empathy for the people, number one. And then learn their stories. And I could do this because I'm from the impoverished areas of Hawaii, and try to help them get away from the negative behaviors, extremism in Xinjiang in many cases, and gang behavior where I am. It's very violent, not good, just selling drugs. Again, that's what I said. So it's this social work is what Neofeud is about. The main character is a social worker for sentient machine robots, so it's science fiction on cyberpunk, but it's about what I did or tried to do, and had very extreme difficulty doing under an imperial structure and a colonial capitalist structure, a racist structure that pays lip service to doing social work but doesn't really want to help these people. And so I try my best against all odds to help these kids as best as I could, going off script much of the time. And so that's what Neofeud is about. And also neo-feudal capitalism, and what is the difference between a king sitting on a throne in Britain and Jeff Bezos sitting on a stack of $100 bills to the height of a stadium, when the CEOs can move entire governments and entire world economies with their power. What is the difference between that and a king or an emperor? And so that's an important thesis, literally, the decompartmentalization of reality that is Neofeud. And so if that sounds interesting, and you like comedy, cyberpunk adventures, games that have like actual left politics and decolonization and anti-colonial and anti-capital politics in them, and also trying to be funny and making you laugh and cry as best as we can, and be entertaining, do check out this game, which I'm going to play the trailer of, and then we'll be done.
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I ain't your son! I ain't your son!
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You and whose army, princess? You and whose army?
Anyway, Neofeud is not coming soon. It's already out. You can get it on Steam and on itch.io. Oh, my voice is so gone. I was streaming Friday, and then I was streaming yesterday and today. But anyway, yeah, you can get Neofeud on Steam. You can get it on itch.io as well. If you have a second to leave even a very short review, it is greatly appreciated because it really does help us to to get people to discover the game in the Steam algorithm when they're looking at more like this and just opening up their program. So it really does help. If you like the game, if you didn't like the game, I am so sorry. I will try to do better on Neofeud too. Positive Synergy is a friend of mine. Neofeud is a labor of love, and also a native Hawaiian as well. Neofeud is a labor of love in the genre of true cyberpunk. It was written, created, and designed by a Kanaka Maoli, native Hawaiian educator and social worker with the help of his family. His project was finished while they were homeless. It shares the direct life experiences in a multi-layered design, and it engages and thrusts the player into those experiences. Anyways, so like it's I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but you know, if you can, thanks a lot for leaving the review, Kama, by the way. Of course, it is greatly appreciated. Also, if you are like a leftist, Marxist, or you like actual dialectical materialism and dialectical thinking, Neofeud, this is from a reviewer, Saima, Neofeud explored the depths that make up our capitalist reality, and I found the game to be a multi-dimensional representation of Marx's Das Kapital. So, again, Neofeud is three-dimensional interactive Das Kapital. Well, it's not three-dimensional. It's two-dimensional with, you know, it's 13 by 66 by 768 interactive Das Kapital. According to that reviewer, anyway. So anyway, there is Marx references for sure through the game. There's a university student literally reading, like a transgenic half-crab human chimera student reading Das Kapital while living out on the street because she's homeless. Because that's reality. You can also find Neofeud on itch.io at Windows, Mac, and on Windows for Mac and Linux. You can get a digital rights management free. If you don't like DRM, if you don't like Steam for whatever reasons, you can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Neofeud. At patreon.com/Neofeud, where you can get access to the Silver Spook Discord if you become a patron. You also do recurring support for us, which is obviously appreciated. And you get access to inside scoops on Neofeud 2 and work that I'm currently doing on the video games. But most of the time, that's what I'm actually doing, is working on the video games. Also, teaching children. We do teaching here at the Silver Spook Hawaiian Hui. We do Native Hawaiian education, where we provide the ike, or the knowledge, to the children here. But that's a part of it. But also, you can also help us out by following at Silver Spook Games at Octodon.social. Mastodon is a decentralized, non-capitalist controlled social media platform, very similar to Twitter, but not owned by a multi-billionaire Western corporate head, Western corporation that does the bidding of DC and the Pentagon and Wall Street, and deletes indigenous people's tweets, shadow bans them, removes anything to do with a fossil fuel pipeline when they're, for example, shoving it through the Wet'suwet'en or the Dakota People's Territory. And so, also, if you're Black Lives Matter or any kind of leftist, you are under the crosshair of the entire surveillance capitalist tech world. So I highly recommend you get one, and increasing. So I highly recommend you get a Mastodon if you do any kind of activism like that, just even as a precaution. It doesn't have the reach of Twitter, but it is an important, like, kind of backup at least. And I hope it becomes more of a foreground in the future. But while we still have access to the Death Star satellites, you can follow at Silver Spook Guy, and that's my personal account. You can also follow at Silver Spook Games. Oh, you can also follow at Luna Oi. Although I'm guessing you might know who Luna Oi is. If you don't, you should definitely follow Luna Oi, who is a very important educational source from the indigenous country of Vietnam, and an indigenous Vietnamese person, an actual socialist country, very important country in the world, and in the coming fight against the actual empire that we will all be in and are in. So follow Luna Oi. Also, you can also follow, where's my Silver Spook Games? I don't know where it is. Here, Silver Spook Games. At Silver Spook Games, minus the E in silver. Is my game related stuff. If you like video games, that's more where that stuff goes. You can also follow Terminus C. Terminus Cyberstar is a low-poly cyberpunk immersive sim in the vein of late 90s PC games such as Deus Ex 1 and System Shock 2. It is a game that I'm also working on, hoping to release this very soon. It's a cyberpunk game that is made by a handful of our creators, programmers, writers, musicians, voice actors. I am the lead writer on this, basically, content director. So I designed the world, the gameplay, and the main storyline, and the characters, etc. Here's some screenshots of it. Very similar to the Deus Ex franchise, particularly the first two. I haven't played Mankind Divided myself, so can't tell you what the last one was like. But this is a cyberpunk, like Cyberpunk 2077. Far less bugs, not a AAA game. And also, the main character in this game is a homeless asylum seeker, illegal immigrant, being chased down by ICE who escaped a concentration camp in the United States, or in a space version of the United States. So this game, I only make political games that speak to the relevant issues of our time, because that's what I believe cyberpunk actually is. And so, as opposed to Grand Theft Auto reskinned with 80s retro features, which is what Cyberpunk 2077 is. And so, if that sounds interesting, this is some in-game footage. This is an older version. It has since been updated to newer graphics. It is coming out very soon. I don't have a release date at the moment, but sometime very soon is what I hear from the production team. And anyways, if that sounds interesting, do follow at Terminus C. Also, if you want to pick up merchandise, there is Neofeud Redbubble Store, or Silver Spook Redbubble Store, where you can find a variety of shirts and hoodies and stickers and journals and all these other kind of products with things that have Silver Spook art. These are all art created by myself that are on these shirts and such. And that's another way that you can both have a conversation starter for when you're on a Twitch stream, or having an in-person socially distanced meeting, or going to the store, and also support Silver Spook Games if you so choose. So anyway, I forgot to bring this up sometimes, but yeah, that's something that we have. Oh shit, am I not? Oh crap, sorry about that. I wasn't showing the screenshots, my bad. So there's a Redbubble store here. Oh my god, I did this so badly. Here's the store where you can find all the merchandise related to Silver Spook Games and Silver Spook projects. I'm so sorry I didn't show the Terminus Cyberstar, but I'll quickly show that real fast and then I'll get off of this. This is Terminus Cyberstar, what I was just talking about. I'm so sorry I forgot to put this on the screen. So again, like it's like Cyberpunk, but not quite as, it's not a AAA game, and it's a game that is a personal game that I designed with all the politics that I describe in these streams. There's a mission in this game. My favorite mission is it's literally called Universal Death Care, where you try to not get murdered by the United States healthcare system in the video game, and then you have to try to commit crimes. You have to do things that are technically illegal to try to get any basic healing in the game, because it's like $10,000 for your COVID shot. I mean, not exactly that, but it's very political. Let's put it that way. And the main character is a illegal migrant who's running away from ICE. Robotic ICE. So they're like ICE. Imagine an ICE officer that can run as fast as a Terminator, and it can like shoot bullets with perfect precision and literally has no remorse. I mean, cops have very little, but this literal zero remorse or grief or empathy or sympathy. Anyways, so that's Terminus Cyberstar. Finally, thanks to all of these people in this list: Dave James Wooten, Minx Dilla, Mr. Brewer, Belinda Taylor, Keda Copperbar, Industrial Robot, Johnny C, Alana Montero, Sean Collin, Danny Carroll, Eric Wright, Jared, Morgan Swancroft, The Reaver, Talatut Hill, Right 55, Matthew Stone, Alexander Roy Gaberhaus, Alfonso Delazar, Combo Breaker, Lark, Mario, Skylar Smith, Tim Kabuterzix, Raph, Tiny Earl, Michael McAllister, Extremely Online Left, Ted Churlington, Beastcoat, Dename Paname, and Adam M. Smith. No relation to Adam Smith. Capitalism book writer.
As far as I know. I mean, if you are, I'm sorry. If you actually are related to the Adam Smith. Until next time, I will be back at 6. I'm sorry. I'll be back at 9. Is it 9? 9 Pacific time on Twitch. Probably I'm playing video games. I'm gonna play Umurangi Generation, which is another indigenous Maori created cyberpunk or cyberpunk adjacent game, and I'm gonna be playing some of that this evening because I didn't play it on Wednesday. Anyways, until next time, keep your mirror shades polished. Aloha aina, land back, and fuck imperialism and fuck the empire, Western empires.